Chapter 437. It turned out that when there was only one treasure-hunting fish, Han Fei was still very interested in it. However, this fish missed, and Han Fei was so angry that he chopped the fish in half. However, when this treasure-hunting fish was chopped in half by Han Fei, it didn't turn into mist but turned into pieces and fell on the invisible ground. So Han Fei watched this treasure-hunting fish disappear without a trace on the smooth mirror-like invisible ground under his feet. Huh! Han Fei immediately understood that this treasure-hunting fish should be the so-called reward for the sacrifice, so it was real. When he abandoned it, it would be swallowed by the steps into the sea. Han Fei grabbed the black iron, crystals, and other materials floating in the water. According to Chao Qiu, as long as he communicated with this world with his mind, he could sacrifice them. Han Fei immediately found that the piece of black iron and the perspective cream in his hand disappeared. Immediately, there was a turbulence in the water not far in front of him, and then an iron hook squid came out of nowhere. As soon as the iron hook squid showed its head, Han Fei smashed it with a brick. The huge force directly smashed the ink sac in its belly out. Fortunately, no one saw it. Otherwise, they would be very speechless. The squid had just come out and hadn't aimed at the target yet, but it was smashed to death by you with a brick. After smashing the iron hook squid to death, after waiting for 2 or 3 minutes, a shimmering water mass appeared. This time, the reward was a shrimp bone, less than half a meter long. Han Fei pinched it in his hand, shook it, and then used 50% of his strength to break it, but it didn't break. Thus, he used another 10% of his strength. Kacha, seeing that it was broken by his bare hands with 60% of his strength, Han Fei immediately threw it to the ground. After about 2 minutes, it was slowly swallowed by the ground. Humph! Rubbish! However, Han Fei didn't stop immediately, but gathered a mass of spiritual energy on his fingertips, about 500 points, and tried to sacrifice it with spiritual energy. However, after trying, Han Fei found that it didn't work at all. So Han Fei added another 500 points, but it was still not enough. Then, he added another 500 points, only to find that only 200 points were used, and there were still about 300 points left. So high! Han Fei frowned. This was only the first floor of the steps into the sea. Moreover, the rewards he had just received were not good at all. However, why was there as much as 1,200 points of spiritual energy? That was quite a number. Even the spiritual energy of a peak-level dangling fisher could only be consumed 4 times. This time, it was a black moon sicklefish. After it was hacked to death by Han Fei, only an ordinary piece of transparent plaster was left, which was worthless. After confirming that the first floor of the steps into the sea was just for fun, Han Fei meditated in his heart and communicated with this world, only to feel that the hard invisible barrier under his feet seemed to disappear. Han Fei felt that he had passed through a cloud of water mist that was as soft as cotton and appeared about 100 meters above the second level. This is bad. The black and white vicious duo are here. Let's go. Some people didn't take it seriously and even glanced at Han Fei. In the end, he was immediately scolded by someone beside him. Look at you, son of AB*TCH? Stop looking. Fan Datong is here. Do you want to be eaten? Run, run. In the blink of an eye, these people left more than a dozen creatures for Han Fei to sacrifice and summon. It was almost the same as the first floor, and even the creatures summoned were the same. With Han Fei's current physique, even if he stood still, these sea creatures couldn't possibly bite him to death after a moment. When Han Fei looked at the various materials wrapped in a dozen water balls, he was quite speechless. Weren't the most worthless things in the ocean stones, shells, and various spiritual plants? Were they all for this kind of reward? Among these dozen water balls, only one water ball was wrapped in a flash stone. Han Fei didn't even want to pick up the other things. Han Fei couldn't help but wonder, why are they exchanging for these garbage items at such a high price? In fact, these things weren't even qualified to be made into low-quality spiritual weapons. Han Fei thought, the lower the level, the higher the quality of the materials, but the higher the price everyone has to pay. Something's wrong. Han Fei sacrificed again with spiritual energy, but after spending nearly 1,300 points of spiritual energy, he only summoned an anti-heaven blade. Keep going down. Han Fei smashed the anti-heaven blade to death with a brick, collected these things, and then appeared above the third floor. According to Cao Qiu, only by defeating the creatures he summoned and getting the reward of the steps into the sea could he enter the next floor. So, Han Fei wondered, then, what kind of creatures will be summoned after the 200th floor? On the third floor, the situation was almost exactly the same as on the first and second floors. As soon as Han Fei appeared, someone screamed and then told his origin in horror. This time, Han Fei sacrificed nearly 1,400 points of spiritual energy. Wow, Han Fei couldn't help but click his tongue. It seems to have a pattern. Every time he went down a floor, he needed to consume nearly 100 more points of spiritual energy in order to verify his idea. Han Fei went all the way down. The time he stayed on each floor was no more than 5 minutes. Not only did he not spend any money, but he also made a small profit. After all, so many people ran away and left him a lot of sacrificial items. A large number of people who knew the black and white ghosts immediately ran away as soon as they saw Han Fei, without the slightest hesitation. The remaining creatures naturally belonged to Han Fei. This situation didn't end until he reached the 31st floor. After entering the 31st floor, Han Fei saw more than a dozen people, far less than the 100 people at the beginning. And the creatures here naturally rose to a higher level. From the most common mystic moonfish, anti-heaven blade, and so on, to most creatures such as black moon sicklefish, mess-swallowing worms, and crayfish. Besides, in terms of level, they were 1 to 2 levels higher on average than the first 10 floors. On the 31st floor, none of the more than a dozen people knew Han Fei, so no one ran away. However, the weird decorations on Han Fei's body still forced them to stay away from him. Han Fei didn't intend to rob these people. In his opinion, even after reaching the 30th floor, the creatures here were still too weak. Unlike the previous floors, there were fewer fish such as mystic moonfish and anti-heaven blade. And there were more relatively advanced fish, such as black moon sicklefish. That was all. Han Fei tried to sacrifice and then curled his lip. 3,300 points. At this moment, Han Fei's estimation was not so accurate, but the error was no more than 200 points of spiritual energy. When he saw a red-browed lobster being summoned, he was a little disappointed. Han Fei smashed it with a brick and this red-browed lobster was smashed into pieces. Hiss! At the moment when Han Fei smashed this red-browed lobster to death, the surrounding people all ran away with horror in their eyes. Sure enough, none of the strangely dressed guys were simple. The 51st floor. This was another watershed. After Han Fei smashed a sapphire lobster to death on the 50th floor, he got a palm-sized jade slip in return, which turned out to be a spirit-level high-quality combat skill. Based on the rewards of this floor alone, he definitely made a profit. But when Han Fei thought of the garbage given on the first 49 floors, he found that he only made a profit. He spent a lot of spiritual energy to exchange for a pile of garbage, but there would always be good things. This was the reason why so many people continued to come in even though they knew it was a trap. Without thinking much, Han Fei entered the 51st floor directly. This time, he actually encountered as many as 30 people fighting here. These people were all fighting on their own, and there was no situation where they were fighting as a group. After Han Fei landed, he casually threw out 20 pieces of garbage. He pondered. According to his previous experience, these 20 materials should be enough for the sacrifice this time. However, someone laughed and said, "Brother, it's not enough. This is the 51st floor." Seeing that those things failed to be sacrificed, Han Fei looked at the man who was fighting a red-haired big-mouthed crab not far away. So he threw out another 20 pieces of garbage. Swish. 34 items disappeared. Huh! Han Fei's eyes suddenly lit up. Is the level of sacrifice on the 51st floor higher than on the 50th floor? When a purple soldier crab appeared, Han Fei confirmed that the level of sacrifice here was indeed higher. Han Fei smiled and then shook his head slightly. But it's still not enough. With a brick, the purple soldier crab died. Many people were stunned. Some people couldn't help but change their expressions and then slowly moved away from Han Fei. But these people didn't escape. They seemed to have something to rely on. After collecting a flash stone, Han Fei sacrificed again with spiritual energy. As a result, 10,000 points of spiritual energy disappeared in an instant. F***CK. So high. Third update. Asking for votes. The author said, "Finally, I can use the names that many readers have suggested for me. I've used more than half of them in one go. Tonight is double 11. I know you're all busy chopping your hands off. I can only wish you all a happy chopping your hands off." End of this chapter. Chapter 438. As he continued down, Han Fei stayed longer and longer. According to his experiment, the 50th floor of the steps into the sea was a watershed. Starting from the 51st floor, if the amount of spiritual energy sacrificed was calculated in terms of spiritual energy, it would be at least 10,000 points. Every time he went down a floor, the consumption of spiritual energy would increase by about 1,000 points. Many people couldn't accept this amount of spiritual energy at all. Although it was reasonable to say that the spiritual energy contained in a spiritual fruit was enough for anyone to go down 7 or 8 floors. However, correspondingly, the creatures summoned on each floor were also getting stronger and stronger. Besides, if you took a spiritual fruit, unless you could quickly break through the next few floors in a few hours, the spiritual energy contained in the spiritual fruit itself would dissipate, and you would also need spiritual energy to fight with the summoned creatures. Therefore, in theory, if a person had 100,000 points of spiritual energy, excluding the battle, consumption, and sacrifice, he could probably only break through 5 floors. Han Fei calculated that the price of buying an ordinary spiritual fruit on the dragon boat was about 800 to 1,000 mid-quality pearls, which was enough for ordinary people to break through about 5 floors after the 50th floor. Of course, as the difficulty increased, the number of floors a person could break through naturally decreased. At this moment, when he came to the 100th floor, Han Fei sacrificed about 65,000 points of spiritual energy, which was equivalent to 6 low-quality spiritual stones and 1 ordinary spiritual fruit. He took out the embroidery needle, and his opponent was a red flame python. At this moment, the red flame python's head had been smashed by Han Fei's rod. To Han Fei's delight, it turned out to be a soul crystal. Although this was only a level 1 soul crystal, it was enough for Han Fei to earn back all his previous investments. He could reluctantly say that he didn't suffer a loss this time. "Give me this one. You already have 2. Han Fei didn't rush to enter the 101st floor but asked, "Master Hexagon, how do I use this thing? Should I eat it directly?" "Yes, you can eat it directly, but it's not delicious. Give it to me." Han Fei smiled without saying anything and threw the soul crystal directly into his mouth. As a result, with a crack, his teeth were almost chewed to pieces. "Damn, it's so hard. Are you sure this thing can be eaten directly?" Han Fei spat out the soul crystal and found that the little crystal didn't change at all. "You don't have to bite it. You can swallow it directly into your stomach." Han Fei asked suspiciously, "Have you eaten it before?" The hexagon starfish rolled its eyes. "I haven't eaten it before, but I think I can swallow it directly." "Shut up." Han Fei's face darkened. You feel? You feel all the time. I'm not a starfish. If you can swallow, I can swallow." Han Fei didn't feel reassured and decided to ask someone. He only had 2 soul crystals, and he was reluctant to give one to the hexagon starfish. With this in mind, Han Fei stopped on the steps into the sea for the first time. Previously, he would stop for a few dozen breaths to test the amount of spirit energy needed to be sacrificed for each step. Therefore, he had never visited every floor of the steps into the sea. At this moment, Han Fei guessed that the 101st floor would be another watershed. Sacrificing on the 101st floor would probably require a large amount of spiritual energy. The trash items that he had accumulated would probably not last past the second level before they were all sacrificed. With one's own spiritual energy, Han Fei didn't think it was necessary. He only needed to test the standard of spiritual energy consumed for the first 2 floors after each watershed. If he kept using his spiritual energy, he would be an idiot. Would he exhaust himself to death? The hexagon starfish couldn't get any spiritual energy, so it could only hang on Han Fei's calf, constantly clawing at his tentacles. The hexagon starfish secretly cursed in its heart. We agreed to hunt for treasures together, but now what good things have I got? Each floor of the steps into the sea was like a square chessboard. No matter from which angle you looked at it, it looked like you were in a normal ocean. However, the feeling of your feet on the ground told you that you were standing on a flat surface. Han Fei jumped out, and after running for about 5 kilometers, he saw an advanced dangling fisher armorist fighting a machete crab. That machete crab was also a mutant species and could be regarded as an exotic species. Seeing Han Fei swimming over with a silver-white glow in his hand, the man couldn't help frowning. Han Fei swam over happily, took out the soul crystal, and said to him via voice transmission, "Hey, brother, do you know how to use the soul crystal?" The advanced dangling fisher looked at Han Fei as if looking at a fool and said in surprise, "Huh, it's this thing. This thing is called a soul crystal." Han Fei was speechless and suddenly remembered that Chao Chiu said that most people didn't know this thing. It seemed to be true. The man suddenly took out a long knife from the armor box, and in the blink of an eye, a knife light of tens of meters burst out and the machete crab in front of him was hacked to death. Then, without blinking, the man directly grabbed a small sword in the water ball and stuffed it into his sea-swallowing seashell. Although the man's speed was very fast, Han Fei found that what he got was just a high-quality magic weapon, which was not a very good return. However, on the dragon boat, the price of a high-quality magic weapon was not cheap. It could be said that this man should have made a profit. The man quickly swallowed a pill, and the spiritual energy in his body surged. Then he put the armor box in front of him. "Give me that stone." Han Fei wondered, "Why should I give it to you?" The man smiled coldly. "Because you are only an intermediate dangling fisher." Of course, this man saw the strange clothes on Han Fei and the words, "Haunting Ghost," written on Han Fei's hat. However, an intermediate dangling fisher was just an intermediate dangling fisher. In this world, there were not so many people who could challenge higher levels. He was very confident that he could defeat this weird boy in front of him. Han Fei was speechless. "So, you want to rob me?" The armorist sneered. "You can say that." Han Fei immediately sneered. "Is my clothes not enough to shock you, or has your head been split by the machete crab? I almost forgot about the robbery. You hand over your sea-swallowing seashell." Okay. Han Fei knew that if he wanted to return to the steps into the sea, he also needed to communicate with the steps into the sea. This was the same as entering the next step, which was not completed in an instant but had to wait for a few seconds. When the armorist saw Han Fei's bright smile, his heart skipped a beat and he subconsciously took out a flash stone. However, he was shocked by what happened next. The seawater beside him suddenly began to go out of control. Before he could crush the flash stone, he suddenly found that he could no longer feel his hand. In a hurry, this person summoned 3 turtleshell shields. However, when a knife light flashed, the shield was broken and a circle of invisible blades was cutting his body crazily. "No! Spare me!" Han Fei slowly hung the blood-drinking knife on his waist. As his fingers slid gently in the water, the seawater turned into many looming sharp blades, cutting the armorist crazily. Han Fei grinned. The infinity water was so useful, even better than the blood-drinking knife. It could kill people without leaving a trace. Han Fei said lightly, "Thank you for reminding me. Otherwise, I would have almost forgotten. From the 100th floor, it seems that it's time to start robbing." Before the armorist finished begging for mercy, his body had been pierced through by the weird water-shaped blade. At the last moment, he seemed to understand a truth. If there was an afterlife, no matter what, he couldn't think that others were stupider than him. Han Fei grabbed this person's sea-swallowing seashell, glanced at it, and shook his head helplessly. The things in this person's sea-swallowing seashell were much less than he thought. There were only less than 30 kinds of materials that could be used to refine spiritual weapons, among which a piece of fish bone was of the best quality. Judging from its quality, it was probably a material for making high-quality spiritual weapons. Unfortunately, it was too little. If he wanted to build a complete high-quality spiritual weapon, Han Fei had to find at least 10 fish bones of the same size. In addition to these materials, there were 5 spiritual fruits, less than 30 caddies of spiritual spring, and 5 or 6 bottles of pills in this person's sea-swallowing seashell. Han Fei didn't mind. In this place, anything could be sacrificed. Although the things in this person's sea-swallowing seashell were few, if they were used as sacrifices, they would probably be enough for him to continue to the next 10 floors. Putting away the sea-swallowing seashell, Han Fei didn't feel any pity. After all, anyone who came to the level 3 fishery had to be prepared to die. Pity was something that was hard to develop after you were used to seeing life and death. Just like just now, this person also wanted to kill him. Was there any need to show any sympathy for him? Of course, this didn't mean that Han Fei was bloodthirsty. In Han Fei's cognition, friendly or hostile completely depended on the other party. Han Fei continued to swim in the water, without direction or goal, as long as he could meet someone. After swimming for 7 or 8 kilometers, Han Fei still didn't find a single person. However, Han Fei didn't give up. He noticed that there were ripples shaking underwater. If he guessed right, Han Fei was sure that there were definitely people fighting within a radius of 30 kilometers. Chapter 439. The steps into the sea was a very strange place. The resources it had seemed to be endless. In the level 3 fishery, divine weapons were very rare, but almost everyone had spiritual weapons. One of the most important sources was this steps into the sea. At this moment, more than 20 people were fighting each other. There was no summoned creature here, indicating that no one had made a sacrifice just now. It was conceivable that these people who were fighting were probably trying to grab other people's sea-swallowing seashells. At this moment, Han Fei was negotiating with the hexagon starfish. "Master Hexagon Starfish, tie them up with the 6-gate formation. At that time, all the shiny things in their sea-swallowing seashells will belong to you, and the rest will belong to me." The hexagon starfish didn't quite believe him. "What about the soul crystal? That thing is precious. The first one belongs to me, and the second one belongs to you." The hexagon starfish's big eyes rolled. "You already have 2. Han Fei said earnestly. "I just don't want you to use it blindly. Look, we have all come to the 100th floor. These people don't even know soul crystals. What does this mean?" The hexagon starfish wondered. "What does it mean?" Han Fei said leisurely. "Since they can come here, it means that these people are no longer ordinary people. However, even so, soul crystals are things that they can't touch. This shows that the significance of soul crystals is more important than what we see. We can't eat them randomly." The 6 eyes of the hexagon starfish tilted at the same time. "You just don't want to give them to me," Han Fei stomped his feet. "Bullshit. Am I that kind of stingy person? Then give me an ultra-quality spiritual stone." "Han Fei, don't talk. If you don't listen to me, I will squeeze your essence blood. The hexagon starfish had learned to roll his eyes now. You have so many spiritual stones. So what if you give me one? Humans are all big octopuses, very hypocritical. Lu Qing, put down the dragon pattern stone, or you won't be able to get out of this steps into the sea. The person who was called Lu Qing was not a man, but a graceful woman. In her hands, 2 nooses were wandering around her body like spiritual snakes. Under her feet were large tracts of red vines. To Han Fei's surprise, more than 20 people were besieging this woman. More importantly, they still haven't managed to kill it. However, when Han Fei saw the noose in Lu Qing's hand, he noticed that it was emitting pale red venom. Then Han Fei figured it out. A manipulator at the level of a peak-level dangling fisher who could use poison, similar to Yang Huan, was not someone that ordinary people could deal with. Besides, those who besieged her were all advanced dangling fishers. None of them were peak-level dangling fishers. Lu Qing was surrounded by this group of people. He stood in the middle of the red vines that were blooming like flowers. He looked around at them. If you have the ability, then come. I want to see how many of you can survive. Kill her. If we sell the dragon pattern stone, each of us will get at least 100,000 mid-quality pearls. Han Fei's lips twitched. For an advanced dangling fisher, 100,000 mid-quality pearls was already a fortune. Unfortunately, in his opinion, they were just a bunch of inexperienced people. Just as everyone was attacking, 6 beams of purple light suddenly appeared out of thin air. Someone's expression changed. Not good, retreat. Someone crushed a flash stone, and then with a bang, it hit the 6 gates formation. Han Fei strolled over and looked at these people coldly. Ghosts take their souls, and impermanence takes their lives. Passers-by wanted money, not life. Leave your sea-swallowing seashells and leave. Han Fei's sudden appearance stunned these people. Lu Qing was also dumbfounded. An intermediate dangling fisher? Someone's face changed slightly. Brothers, break this formation. The opponent is just an intermediate dangling fisher. Kill her. However, as soon as the man shouted this, Han Fei jumped over, and the blood-drinking knife shone brightly and slashed straight at the man. Not good, help me, everyone. An armorist took out a turtle-shell shield, and a manipulator entangled with spiritual herbs. However, these obstacles were all shattered by Han Fei's knife light. At this time, a fish hook instantly broke through the air, fell in front of the clamoring soul warrior, and hooked his feet. Hula! This person was pulled out of the 6-gate formation by Han Fei. Before he could cut the fishing line, a brick had already hit his body. Puff! The man vomited blood and was sent flying, and his 2 arms drooped softly. Han Fei threatened again. It's only right to buy your life with money. Otherwise, I'll break your limbs, dig out your eyes, and cut off your tongue. Wow, so cruel. The soul warrior who fell to the ground was horrified and secretly pinched a flash stone. However, in the next second, he saw the whetstone slapped down like a big seal, directly damaging his internal organs and making him bleed from his 7 orifices. The man was horrified. You are not an intermediate dangling fisher. Han Fei put away the knife and slashed it down. If you try to escape, I'll cut off your limbs. Fortunately, you've already awakened. You can keep your eyes, ears, nose, and tongue. After Han Fei took the sea-swallowing seashells dropped by the soul warrior, he ignored him. The battle soul master dragged his crippled body and fled like a madman. The 6-gate formation let him go, and the man disappeared from sight in the blink of an eye. Han Fei straightened his hat with both hands and continued coldly, I want your money, not your life. You have 10 minutes to think about it. With that said, Han Fei counted, 10983, with his hands hanging down, his eyes dull. We'll give it to you. Han Fei's means were too tough. This purple light array made their scalps go numb. Even flash stones couldn't get out of this array formation, so it wasn't something they could break in 1 or 2 attacks. When someone threw out their sea-swallowing seashells, a gap would open in front of them, and the person who handed over his sea-swallowing seashells fled in panic for fear that Han Fei would attack him. Seeing someone leave, a second and a third immediately followed. After a while, only the manipulator named Lu Qing was left in the six-gate formation. Han Fei tilted his head. "I want your money, not your life. Will you give it to me or not?" Lu Qing's eyes turned cold. "Don't play tricks on me. Come and kill me." Han Fei stepped into the six-gate formation and then stepped in front of Lu Qing. In an instant, the red vines raged and the ropes were like snakes, directly covering Han Fei. Lu Qing snorted. "You are very arrogant. Unfortunately, only peak-level dangling fishers can resist my red moon poisonous toad." Bam! 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 As soon as Lu Qing finished speaking, all the red vines collapsed, and Han Fei held 2 ropes in his hands, letting the red poison spread in his palms. Seeing this scene, Lu Qing was shocked and a red toad appeared behind her, with dark red poison bursting on its body. Immediately afterward, dozens of dark red venoms rapped at Han Fei. The corners of Han Fei's mouth slightly curled up. He suddenly pulled the noose, and under the pull of his huge force, Lu Qing's body rushed forward. What greeted her was a rectangular brick, a whetstone. Bam! Lu Qing was slapped to the ground by Han Fei like a cannonball. As for her red venom, it was pulled by circles of water and none of it could approach Han Fei. Han Fei's voice was calm and his eyes were calm. "It's only right to buy your life with money. Put down your sea-swallowing seashells and I'll spare your life." Lu Qing struggled to sit up, frowned, and looked at Han Fei. "Who the hell are you?" Han Fei didn't bother to talk nonsense. He slashed out, smashed the red vines, and finally fell on Lu Qing's body. Puff, huh! In Han Fei's surprised gaze, Lu Qing appeared in another place. What he had just chopped down was actually a round red vine. Lu Qing immediately took out her sea-swallowing seashell. "I'll give it to you." Han Fei grabbed the sea-swallowing seashell, swept it inside, and then a black stone was pulled out by him. Han Fei looked at it carefully, but the demon purification pot didn't show anything. However, he squeezed it hard and then cut it with the snow drinking knife, only to find that there was only a shallow white mark. "Not bad." Han Fei raised his head and glanced at Lu Qing. "I'll give you time to call for help. Go." Since Lu Qing was surrounded, she had already planned to blow herself up. Later, Han Fei appeared halfway and seemed to be even more arrogant. As far as she knew, there were few people like Han Fei in the level 3 fishery. He could have killed her, but he didn't. Everyone knew that kindness to the enemy was cruelty to oneself. However, Han Fei didn't do it and asked her to call for help. What did he mean by this? Lu Qing took a deep look at Han Fei and left quickly without saying a word. A soul crystal and a dragon pattern stone, these were the 2 best items Han Fei had obtained so far. He immediately checked other people's sea-swallowing seashells, which were generally similar to the armorist he had killed before. There were very few things in the sea-swallowing seashells, and the quality was only slightly higher. In short, these people didn't have any real good things. This inevitably disappointed Han Fei. Was the 100th floor not enough? Were all the good things still below? Chapter 440. After about half a day, Han Fei robbed a total of 43 people. He seemed to have robbed a lot of sea-swallowing seashells, but he didn't get any good things. Han Fei suddenly felt that his strategy was wrong. He shouldn't have robbed on this 100th floor. Most of the people who stayed on this floor didn't want to go down or were scared by the huge consumption of the lower floor. During the period, Han Fei also met someone who specialized in robbing like himself. That person had 18 sea-swallowing seashells and was a hunter who specialized in sneak attacks. Han Fei pondered. On the 100th floor, the quality of the treasures on this hunter was the best. But even the best treasures didn't have a single soul crystal, which made Han Fei a little disappointed. Then, what if he was on the 101st floor? According to Han Fei's estimation, from the 101st floor onward, the number of people would decrease. And those who had the ability to go up were almost all advanced dangling fishers. Of course, the good things would belong to the strong. So, with a thought, Han Fei entered the 101st floor. This time, Han Fei only met one person. And this person was not fighting. He seemed to just happen to pass by and saw Han Fei. An intermediate, dangling fisher. This person froze for a moment and paused in the water for 2 seconds as if thinking about whether to rob Han Fei. However, when Han Fei turned to look at him, this person directly crushed a flash stone and quickly fled. Han Fei was speechless. That person just now was an advanced dangling fisher. He just glanced at him and he crushed a stone and fled. And that person cursed. Damn it, the black and white ghosts, these two bastards also entered the steps into the sea. And Han Fei had just landed, so he didn't feel it was a pity that one person ran away. He picked up a spiritual fruit, which contained 78,989 points of spiritual energy, and directly sacrificed it. However, to Han Fei's surprise, the steps into the sea didn't accept nearly 80,000 points of spiritual energy. What does this mean? Is the requirement of the 101st floor so high? Han Fei remembered that on the 100th floor, if he sacrificed spiritual energy, he only needed about 65,000 points. He was only one floor away, but the level of sacrifice had increased so much. Han Fei immediately took out a low-quality spiritual stone, which contained 12,116 points of spiritual energy, which added up to more than 90,000 points of spiritual energy. However, it still didn't work. Don't tell me it's 100,000? Han Fei frowned and took out another low-quality spiritual stone. This time, the spirit fruit in his hand disappeared, a spirit stone shattered, and another spirit stone was filled with cracks, as if it would shatter at any moment. Holy sh**t. Han Fei was a little speechless. How many people in the level 3 fishery could afford a sacrifice of 100,000 points of spiritual energy? Even if converted into mid-quality pearls, it would be nearly 1,500 mid-quality pearls for a sacrifice. This price was not expensive in Han Fei's eyes. However, on the 100th floor, those people even had to fight for 100,000 mid-quality pearls, so the offering of 1,500 mid-quality pearls seemed very expensive. The water rippled, and to Han Fei's astonishment, a creature that he was very familiar with swam up from the ripples under the surface ice. Dragon eel. Han Fei's face darkened. A dragon eel appeared on the 101st floor. Han Fei swallowed. The level of a dragon eel was not low. Although he had killed a dragon eel when he was a great fishing master, he was almost killed by a dragon eel at that time. Besides, he only managed to kill the dragon eel by absorbing its spiritual energy with the demon purification pot. The dragon eel in front of him was at a higher level than the previous one, 5 levels higher. Name: Dragon Eel. Introduction: a demonic fish mixed with dragon blood. It lives on dragon bones all year round. It is extremely resistant to cold, has a tough body and powerful high-voltage electric energy. Level 38 quality, exotic, contains spiritual energy greater than 2,484 points, edible effect, inedible absorbable, if converted to normal strength. This dragon eel was equivalent to an advanced dangling fisher. However, dragon eels were born with the ability to discharge electricity. Whether it was in strength or speed, they were extremely strong in the ocean. Sure enough, this floor is completely different from the previous one. Han Fei grinned, looked at the dragon eel pouncing at him, turned his body slightly, and immediately punched the dragon eel's gills. Buzz, a majestic electric energy jumped directly into Han Fei's body. Buzz, Han Fei's body stiffened for a moment. However, as he shuddered, the electric current dispersed into his limbs and bones. Immediately afterward, a huge tail swept over. Han Fei directly slapped the dragon eel's tail. The huge force made Han Fei take a step back. However, Han Fei turned over and landed on the dragon eel. "Come on, let's continue." Buzz, coo coo coo, Han Fei spat out a string of bubbles. However, he didn't panic at all. Perhaps for some ordinary advanced dangling fishers, encountering a creature like the dragon eel would be very troublesome and even a little scared. However, for Han Fei, the dragon eel posed no threat to him at all, unless this dragon eel could break through to level 40. If not, it was just a mobile charging baby, injecting a lot of energy into his body from time to time. Buzz, buzz, the dragon eel was very annoyed, rampaging and extremely violent. After less than 2 minutes, the dragon eel finally died out. It was very depressed. Was its electric energy not strong enough? Why didn't the guy on its back react at all? And Han Fei was enjoying the vigorous energy. He had to admit that the dragon eel was not inferior to the freak octopus in terms of comprehensive ability. He couldn't imagine how the freak octopus would feel after biting the dragon eel with its big mouth. According to the nature of the octopus, it was very likely that it would run away immediately. However, while Han Fei felt good, the hexagon starfish was stunned. Several times, the hexagon starfish was electrocuted and fell off Han Fei's calf. As a result, it was grabbed back by Han Fei and placed on his shoulder again. "Human, can you kill this big fish? I feel like I'm going to explode from the power of this electric current." Han Fei said, "Master Hexagon Starfish, you are already a level 43 advanced creature. Why are you still afraid of this level 38 dragon eel?" The hexagon starfish's big eyes were dull. "My physique is not strong," Han Fei wondered. "Really? Then I'm sorry. However, the electric energy of this dragon eel can strengthen your physique. Try absorbing it. Give me my essence blood. I think I can also go treasure hunting as a starfish." Alas, it's so troublesome to go treasure hunting alone. The more people, the more strength. Unity is strength. The hexagon starfish. The dragon eel was completely out of electricity and was completely beaten by Han Fei. At this moment, it lay limp on the ground and refused to move. With a bang, a brick hit its head. "Swim. You haven't even swum 10,000 meters after a long time. Are you a fish? You're dragging a fish back." Han Fei knew the nature of the dragon eel very well. Although it was out of electricity, this guy still had a lot of strength. Even if it wanted to go on strike now, it depended on whether Han Fei was willing or not. The dragon eel was knocked by a brick and rushed forward again. As a result, on the steps of the 101st floor, a strange phenomenon appeared. A boy covered in bubbles, riding a dragon-shaped eel more than 10 meters long, swam in the water. Luda had been on the 101st floor for a full 7 days. In the past few days, he had repeatedly offered sacrifices and thought that he had gained a lot. At this moment, he summoned a green-ringed octopus. This thing was very rare. He felt that he might make a fortune this time. Puff, in front of Luda, a gigantic octopus tentacle was chopped off by him in a split second. "Hey! I'm destined to have a big opportunity today." Just when Luda was about to strike again, he saw a dragon eel rushing over in the distance. "Huh? Why is there a summoned creature alone? Has the summoner been killed?" As a result, when the dragon eel approached, Luda's eyes suddenly widened. He saw a figure sitting on the back of the dragon eel. Hiss! This is someone else's contractual spiritual beast. Luda glanced at the half-dead blue ring octopus, suddenly gritted his teeth, and swung out 9 swords at the same time. In the 9 crisscrossing sword shadows, the blue ring octopus was directly cut off. Luda couldn't care about anything else and hurriedly grabbed the water ball. At the same time, he was furious in his heart. "Damn it, I've already fought to this point. How can I let others take the fruits of my labor?" But before the water ball completely emerged, Luda saw a rotating flying knife thrown at him. "Ho! What can a mere hidden weapon do to me?" But the next second, when the 6-gate formation rose, Luda was stunned. The hexagon starfish complained via voice transmission, "Why did you throw it at me? If I didn't throw it at you, maybe he would have run away. Then we'll be in trouble. Brother, hand over your sea-swallowing seashell." Chapter 441. Clatter. Han Fei took out a spiritual fruit from the water, which was just an ordinary spiritual fruit. Luda was lying on the ground. Just now, he tried to resist, only to be slapped down by a brick. Under Luda's shocked gaze, Han Fei grabbed the spiritual fruit, took a bite, and then looked at him. "I'm here to rob you, not to kill you." Luda's face was livid, and he gritted his teeth. "Really? I said I won't take it, so I won't. Remember, my name is Fan Datong, the black ghost of the black and white ghosts. Remember to take revenge on me in the future." Luda handed over his sea-swallowing seashell. He had lived frugally for more than half a year, and the wealth he had accumulated was exchanged for this harvest. In the end, because of his greed, everything was ruined here. Han Fei narrowed his eyes. Goodbye. Han Fei felt that the steps into the sea was the truly fair place in the level 3 fishery. This feeling of robbing people anytime and anywhere was really cool. Luda disappeared directly in front of Han Fei's eyes. He knew that with Han Fei's strength, if Han Fei wanted to kill him, he would die no matter whether he ran or not. Anyway, he had become a pauper now, so he could only leave the steps into the sea. No wonder people often said that the steps into the sea were dangerous. The real danger here actually came from human beings. Han Fei looked at a person disappearing in front of his eyes, a little curious. Why did this altar exist? Just to exploit these dangling fishers? Yes, in Han Fei's view, the steps into the sea was definitely a tool of exploitation, possibly a tool of exploitation by powerful figures. Every day, a large number of people offered sacrifices here, but few really got enough returns and went out smoothly. Han Fei himself was like this. Apart from a few checkpoints where they would use spiritual energy as a sacrifice, the rest of the items used were all snatched from others. But so far, although the quality of the things he robbed was high, the number of sacrifices had also increased. There were really not many that could be saved in his hand. Han Fei looked back, and the dragon eel was still lying there. For some reason, the creatures summoned from the steps into the sea didn't seem to know how to escape at all. Han Fei walked up to the dragon eel. This guy glanced at Han Fei with its hideous big head, and suddenly jumped up, biting at Han Fei. However, Han Fei dodged slightly, leaving a leg for the dragon eel. "Ouch, it hurts!" Bang! Han Fei slapped the hexagon starfish so hard that the 6 big eyes of the hexagon starfish constricted. Master Hexagon Starfish thought to himself, "This big fish is really stupid. It hasn't figured out the situation yet." As soon as he saw Han Fei in the level 3 fishery, he knew that this guy didn't come with good intentions. He didn't even think of resisting. The dragon eel was probably having a mental breakdown at this moment. Why can't I bite? Was this person made of 9 heavens black iron? Han Fei pried open the dragon eel's teeth rudely, looked at the bite marks on his leg, and slapped the dragon eel's big face. "That's what you get for biting me, that's what you get for having a big mouth." After a dozen slaps, Han Fei jumped on the dragon eel's head and slapped it. "Keep swimming." On the large platform of the steps into the sea. From time to time, someone would exclaim, "Wow, isn't that the genius youngster Wang Yu? Why did he come out? Isn't that Luda? This guy is said to have passed 100 floors. Did he get some treasures? Huh? That's Zhou Ming. Why are there so many holes in his stomach?" When nearly 20 people appeared on the spring in the center of the steps into the sea, many people were not surprised anymore. Someone was speechless. Who did they meet? All of them were killed? Someone was puzzled. No way. If they met a strong master, there's no way they could still be alive. Someone guessed. Could it be that someone summoned a special creature? They couldn't beat it, so they all came out? Someone nodded solemnly. It's possible. After a moment, someone came up to greet him. "Hey. Brother Wang, did you get anything? I'm short of some ultra-quality materials. If you have them, give them to me. The price is absolutely fair. The young man called Brother Wang said gloomily with a black face, What materials do I have? The black and white ghosts robbed us on the 100th floor below. All our sea-swallowing seashells were robbed. On the other side, Luda scolded, Hey! Who can tell me where these King black and white ghosts come from? Is there anyone who will wait for them to come out with me? Let's kill them together. Not far away, someone sneered. Brother Lu, who are you going to kill? Do you think you can kill the black and white ghosts? Luda glared at him. What? The treasures I fought so hard for were all taken away by this guy. Can't I kill him? If I can't beat him, I can hire someone to do it. Someone chuckled. Come on. It seems that these guys were all killed by the black and white ghosts. But you'd better ask around first. In the entire steps into the sea, except for those children of the big clans who are practicing at the bottom level, who dares to kill the black and white ghosts? Luda's eyes glazed for a moment. Someone seemed to have transmitted something to him, and he looked more and more panicked. F***CK. Eating people? They killed Lianqi? Is he on the wanted list? Gulp. Many people had just come out of the underground world and didn't know Fan Datong. Now that they heard of this person's misdeeds, they were stunned. Is this guy so terrifying? What's his background? In the steps into the sea, Han Fei had robbed 37 people in a row on the 101st floor. His mantra, robbing passers-by, not taking their lives, had even been widely spread outside the steps into the sea. However, no one thought that Han Fei dared not kill people. In the description of many people, Fan Datong and Xie Xiaoan were a pair of lunatics. How could a lunatic not dare to kill people? Therefore, everyone agreed that Fan Datong was building up momentum for himself, trying to let more and more people know about them and be afraid of them. Of course, Han Fei didn't know or care what others said. At this moment, he found that something big had happened. Chao Chiu said that the further down the steps into the sea, the smaller the space was. He was already on the 101st floor, and he had traveled at least 200 kilometers on the Dragon Eel. However, he didn't even finish the whole step. Of course, the important thing was not the size of the step, but that Xia Shaochan seemed to have been here. In front of Han Fei, a young woman was looking at Han Fei in horror. Are you Black Ghost? Do you know me? It doesn't matter if you know me. Hand over your sea-swallowing seashell. The girl looked terrible. She lifted her clothes, revealing her lower abdomen. Han Fei raised his eyes. Ahem, let me tell you, it's useless to tempt me. I'm a very stubborn person. The girl looked a little angry, but she didn't dare to lose her temper. She could only grit her teeth and say, I was stabbed 3 times. The one in the white hat said her name was Xie Xiaoan. Have you seen Xie Xiaoan? Han Fei glanced at the girl's lower abdomen, on which there were 2 knife wounds, one on the left and one on the right, which seemed to have penetrated her body. Han Fei also keenly noticed that the clothes on the girl's chest were torn and there was blood oozing out. He was afraid that the 3rd stab should have fallen here. Han Fei glanced at the woman. Which direction did Xie Xiaoan go? Following the direction the woman pointed, Han Fei jumped on the dragon eel's head and slapped it. Let's go. More than half an hour later, Han Fei only met 2 people. These 2 people had one thing in common. They were both fighting with injuries. Where were the injuries? They were both on the abdomen and both were stabbed by daggers. Han Fei suspected that Xia Shaochan didn't intend to attack their summoned creatures at all because she thought it was too troublesome. She simply robbed them of their sea-swallowing seashells and then slipped away. Han Fei was about to chase her, but suddenly, he and the fish bumped into an invisible barrier. Is it a seal? The hexagon starfish nodded. This is the end. Han Fei was helpless. How far have we swum? The hexagon starfish waved its tentacles and rolled its eyes. almost thousands of kilometers. Han Fei was speechless. Thousands of kilometers? The dragon eel was lazy and didn't swim fast. At this speed, it swam 500 kilometers at most. No. There are so few people. How can we snatch them? In the steps into the sea, once the sea-swallowing seashells were taken away, there was basically no need to stay here. Without the sea-swallowing seashells, you could only sacrifice spiritual energy. But on the 101st floor, a random sacrifice required 100,000 points of spiritual energy. Ordinary dangling fishers wouldn't have so much spiritual energy even if they sold themselves. What else could they do except to go out? Now, Han Fei ran so far and only saw these two injured people. There was no doubt that they were both stabbed by Xia Xiaochan. When it came to stabbing people, Xia Xiaochan was a professional. Han Fei just didn't expect that Xia Xiaochan could also stab people with a stick. Did she replace the long stick in her hand with a spear? Xia Xiaochan's speed was so fast that she was ahead of him. Forget it, there's nothing good here anyway. Let's go straight to the 148th floor. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 442. To be honest, Chao Qiu said how difficult it was after the 120th floor of the steps into the sea, but Han Fei really didn't feel it at all. He felt that he already knew the basic rules of the steps into the sea. Every 50 floors, it seemed that the level of the creatures summoned would increase by 1 level. And from the 101st floor to the 150th floor, the biggest difference between them was that the probability of encountering creatures above level 35 was getting higher and higher. In terms of strength, most of them were close to the level of the dragon eel. Considering that Xia Xiaochan was already clearing the floors one by one, Han Fei didn't waste any time. Every time he entered the next floor, he didn't even bother to move and directly sacrifice. On the 136th floor, he got another soul crystal. On the 142nd floor, Han Fei unexpectedly didn't summon anything and directly got the sacrifice prize. When Han Fei came to the 148th floor, he found that there was no one here. Because they had agreed to meet here, Han Fei didn't continue to the next floor but chose to clear this floor first. When Han Fei crossed the 148th floor, he found that the steps had indeed become smaller. If the 101st floor was really nearly 1,000 kilometers away, then the range of the 148th floor was only half that of the 101st floor. But even so, the range was still very large. Han Fei didn't rush to find Xia Xiaochan or Chao Qiu, but sat on the ground and studied his gains during this period of time. He was speechless when he realized that ever since he entered the 101st level, he hadn't robbed anyone. Therefore, after nearly 50 sacrifices, all the things he had plundered, except for the 3 soul crystals, had been used as sacrifices. And those were not enough. He also used up 2 extra sea-swallowing seashells and a huge amount of materials. Suddenly, Han Fei had an epiphany. Where did all the things he sacrificed go? He boldly guessed that the things he sacrificed were taken by others after he sacrificed them, right? Han Fei felt that this was very possible. For now, he had already started to pay for them. And there were basically few really good things left. However, there were also some benefits to this. Some of the better materials were kept by him. There were countless garbage materials in his hundreds of sea-swallowing seashells, which could be used as sacrifices and then exchanged for better returns with the steps into the sea. So Han Fei began to sacrifice crazily. In one day, Han Fei used up 12 sea-swallowing seashells and sacrificed 26 times. This number scared Han Fei. He was shocked to find that at the 148th level, the offerings consumed for a single sacrifice, if converted into spiritual energy, were as much as 340,000 points. F***ck, it's not enough. Han Fei frowned. The returns from the 26 sacrifices were not bad. The worst one was a top-grade spirit tier battle skill, and the best one was a high-grade spirit robe. Unfortunately, spirit clothes were not battle armor, and their defensive power was not as strong as battle armor. However, Han Fei didn't care because this was the first high-quality spiritual garment he owned. Although the appearance of this spiritual robe was much worse than the one he had designed, it was still a piece of cake. A single piece of clothing could be said to be priceless. He did not sacrifice it for nothing. The number of soul crystals in Han Fei's hand also increased from 3 to 4. Under the hexagon starfish's strong request, Han Fei decided to give it one. At this moment, Han Fei was sitting on the ground, looking at the hexagon starfish. Han Fei asked, "Master Hexagon, it's been 100 minutes. Haven't you digested the soul crystal yet?" The hexagon starfish's big eyes were motionless, but he said via voice transmission, still digesting. "So slow." Han Fei quickly asked, "Are you having trouble digesting it? If you can't digest it, spit it out quickly. I don't mind your saliva." The hexagon starfish said, "I need to digest it slowly. It can't be so fast." After a whole day, the hexagon starfish's eyes rolled. "Okay, my perception range seems to have expanded by 50 meters. I feel that my tentacles seem to be a little more flexible." Han Fei's face suddenly turned black. "One soul crystal, 50 meters? Hurry up and tell me how to absorb this thing." The hexagon starfish paused for a moment. "Cultivation. We starfish also need to cultivate." Han Fei was speechless. "Then tell me, how on earth do I cultivate?" The hexagon starfish replied, "It's the cultivation method of bloodline inheritance. Don't you have one?" "But I have a hammer." Han Fei slapped its tentacle and said ferociously, "Do I look like someone with a bloodline inheritance?" The hexagon starfish quickly withdrew its tentacles. "Actually, it's okay not to cultivate. As long as you wrap it with spiritual power, it will slowly melt." When Han Fei heard this, he quickly took out a soul crystal and held it in his hand. It was not difficult to control it with spiritual power. The knives of the million knife art were all dominated and controlled by spiritual power. Turned out to be so simple. Han Fei almost instantly wrapped the soul crystal in his hand with spiritual power. An hour later, Han Fei suddenly opened his eyes and said with a black face, "Why is the absorption speed so slow?" Han Fei felt that it took him an hour to absorb less than 1/10 of the soul crystal, and his spiritual perception seemed to have increased by less than 5 meters. The hexagon starfish's big eyes kept rolling. "Because I have a way to cultivate." Han Fei slapped over, only to see the hexagon starfish suddenly retract its tentacles, and he slapped the ground. Master Hexagon Starfish, your reaction has become faster?" The hexagon starfish swished and hung on Han Fei's back. "Like I said, my tentacles seem to have become more flexible." Han Fei wondered, "Does this soul crystal have such an effect?" Han Fei continued to absorb. 2 hours later, he felt that the soul crystal in his hand was a little smaller. However, it would probably take another day for it to be completely absorbed. Suddenly, Han Fei thought of something. "Is my God-scaring painting a cultivation method?" The God-scaring painting was just a painting, and it had been cut into 1,000 pieces by Han Fei. However, it was too difficult to visualize and he was extremely short of time, so he just let it be. However, could visualization also be a cultivation method? Otherwise, he had paid close attention to how the hexagon starfish cultivated just now. This guy had no energy fluctuations all over its body, and even its big eyeballs had stopped rolling. In his mind, when a picture with complicated lines appeared, Han Fei felt his heart tremble, and the soul crystal in his hand disappeared almost instantly. Immediately afterward, Han Fei seemed to feel that there was suddenly a trace of satisfaction in his mind, just like the first bite of food after he was extremely hungry. His whole body was full of joy. Han Fei felt that his memory seemed to have become better. All of this took less than 10 breaths of time. When he opened his eyes again, The picture of that small piece of the gods scaring painting had been completely engraved in his mind. Wow! Is it really a cultivation method? As soon as Han Fei turned his head, he saw the hexagon starfish lying on his shoulder, staring at Han Fei's palm and then at Han Fei's head with its big eyes. The hexagon starfish was shocked. Do you have a soul cultivation method? Han Fei grinned. I think so. The hexagon starfish was discouraged. Human beings are all big octopuses that deceive people. Obviously, you have an inheritance too. Han Fei. Han Fei was not in the mood to pay attention to the hexagon starfish at this moment. He sensed with his spirit and found that the range of his perception had increased by another 50 meters. Han Fei's expression changed, and another soul crystal appeared in his hand. After 10 seconds, another soul crystal appeared in his hand. When the last soul crystal disappeared, the range of Han Fei's spiritual perception had increased to 450 meters. This was equivalent to him visualizing the gods scaring painting for 3 months. Good stuff. Han Fei suddenly rose to his feet, his eyes glowing with surprise. No wonder soul crystals are so rare. I didn't expect that with the cultivation method, I can improve so fast. But then Han Fei's face stiffened as if something was wrong. Even without the gods scaring painting, it seemed that it would only take him about a day to absorb a soul crystal. No matter how rare soul crystals were, it didn't seem difficult for people like Chao Qiu to get them. In particular, it seemed that more people didn't even know what soul crystals were. This made it easy for a large number of soul crystals to fall into the hands of those with money, power, and status. In this way, didn't it mean that these descendants of the big clans could infinitely improve their soul and perception range? Han Fei's face changed slightly. Master Hexagon Starfish, how many soul crystals do you think you can absorb? Watching Han Fei absorb 3 soul crystals, the hexagon starfish almost drooled with envy. Hearing Han Fei's question, he thought Han Fei had found his conscience and was going to give him a few more in the future. A lot. Han Fei asked, how many is a lot? The hexagon starfish muttered, definitely more tentacles than mine. F***ck off. Han Fei was speechless. It's so hard to chat with a starfish who is not good at math. You only have 6 F***king tentacles in total. Does it mean more tentacles than you? Second update. Please vote. End of this chapter. Chapter 443. Han Fei had been cultivating on the 148th floor for 2 days when a sneaky little fatty appeared at the end of his sight. When Chao Qiu saw Han Fei, he jumped up and waved at Han Fei. I'm here, I'm here. Han Fei greeted him enthusiastically and stretched out a hand. Chao Qiu. Han Fei asked, do you have a soul crystal? Chao Qiu looked at Han Fei in a daze. I didn't hit him. Han Fei immediately withdrew his gaze in disgust. Haven't you been to the 148th floor? Why did you arrive so late? Chao Qiu was speechless. It only took me 3 days to arrive. When did you arrive? Han Fei replied, I arrived on the first day. Chao Qiu's body stiffened, and then his little fat face drooped. Sure enough, you people. You are all the same. Han Fei asked, what? Chao Qiu snorted. Nothing. Where is Xia Xiaochan? Han Fei said seriously, it's Xie Xiaoan. Chao Qiu curled his lips. What about Xie Xiaoan? Why hasn't she arrived yet? Han Fei said indifferently, she is robbing people up there. She will probably arrive in 2 days. Hearing that Xia Xiaochan was robbing people, Chao Qiu was not surprised at all. He had seen too many robberies. He muttered, what's so good about robbing people up there? Han Fei asked Chao Qiu about soul crystals, mainly about the upper limit of the use of soul crystals. Chao Qiu's answer shocked Han Fei. Chao Qiu said, there is no upper limit for the use of soul crystals. At that time, Han Fei was stunned and dumbfounded. Han Fei couldn't help asking, what is the range of your spiritual perception? Chao Qiu replied, 800 meters. How much? Han Fei's eyes almost popped out. Although Chao Chiu was theoretically a small realm higher than him, his perception range of 800 meters really shocked him. However, Han Fei then asked, since there is no upper limit for the use of soul crystals, why is your perception range so low? Soul crystals don't seem to be rare for people like you, right? Chao Chiu chuckled. How can it be so simple? When your perception range reaches 500 meters, you will find that the effect of an ordinary level 1 soul crystal is already 10 times worse. Rank 2 soul crystals are extremely rare, so don't be fooled by my 800-meter range. Do you know how many soul crystals I used? I've used 70 or 80 of them. Han Fei was lost for words. What a prodigal! 70 to 80 soul crystals was quite a lot. However, this number wasn't much. With Chao Chiu's identity, he should be able to get at least 70 or 80 soul crystals. Chao Chiu knew what Han Fei was thinking and said, soul crystals are not so easy to get. Usually, it would only appear on the 120th floor and above. However, those who could reach the 120th floor and above were practically no weaklings. Only those who knew nothing would choose to sell. Those who truly know the effects of soul crystals usually won't sell them. Han Fei's eyes turned cold. Then do you know how far the perception range of the younger generation in the Thousand-Star City is? Chao Chiu replied without thinking, 3,200 meters. How much? Han Fei was shocked again, and looked at Chao Chiu in astonishment. 3,200. How many King soul crystals did you use? Chao Chiu grinned. Haha, I don't remember how many. Anyway, when Chao Tian came out last time, it was already 3,200. Now it is estimated to be 3,500. Your brother? Chao Chiu sighed. Of course. Actually, he should have broken through to be a peak-level dangling fisher long ago and gone back to the Thousand-Star City. But he wanted to break through the steps into the sea. Look, I don't know how many floors he has reached this time, but I think it should be more than the 208th floor. Han Fei was shocked. What kind of tough guy was Chao Chiu's brother? In Chao Chiu's words, how long has Chao Tian been fighting here? How many soul crystals did he use to increase his spiritual perception range to more than 3,000 meters? 2 days later, Xia Shaochan arrived. When she saw Han Fei and Chao Chiu, she bared her teeth and smiled very happily. Xia Shaochan said, I'm here. Han Fei responded lightly, yeah. Have you cleaned up the floors? Xia Shaochan glanced at Han Fei in surprise. How did you know? Han Fei said with a smile, I knew it when I found that all the people who wanted to rob were stabbed by you. Chao Chiu interjected, why didn't I know? Han Fei asked, did you rob them? Chao Chiu shook his head. No wonder. I was wondering why I felt that there were fewer people when I came here. It turns out that they have all been cleaned up by you. Xia Shaochan grabbed a large handful of sea-swallowing seashells and looked at Han Fei as if presenting a treasure. Look, I robbed more than 600 sea-swallowing seashells. Do you want them? I can give you some. Chao Chiu. Han Fei covered his head. Keep them for yourself. The further we go, the greater the sacrifice will be. I suspect that when we reach the 200th floor, each sacrifice will cost nearly 1,000,000 points of spiritual energy or items of equal value. A sea-swallowing seashell is very likely not enough for one sacrifice. Xia Shaochan put away the sea-swallowing seashell. I also think that the sacrifice is too expensive. Then we have to rob hard on each floor after that. Chao Chiu was dumbfounded as he watched from the side. What kind of people did he make friends with? He knew that Han Fei and Xia Shaochan were powerful, but he didn't expect them to be so powerful. Han Fei easily reached the 148th floor in one day. Xia Shaochan cleaned up all the way, and it only took her 5 days to rob more than 600 sea-swallowing seashells. How ferocious were these two people? How could they be so crazy and unscrupulous as to loot in the steps into the sea? Chao Chiu quickly stood up and said, "Don't. It's too troublesome to clean up floor by floor. Let's go straight to the 180th floor." Han Fei and Xia Shaochan looked at Chao Chiu at the same time. "Why?" Chao Chiu said matter-of-factly, "Of course, if you rob floor by floor, you may get hundreds of sea-swallowing seashells. However, the real heavenly talents and the children of the big clans are all below the 180th floor. Among them, the 200th and 201st floors have the most. At that time, if you can find a way to sweep these two floors, I guarantee that you will make a lot of money." Han Fei and Xia Shaochan smiled at each other and shook their heads tacitly. "Let's rob floor by floor." Chao Chiu was dumbfounded. "Why?" Xia Shaochan curled her lips. "As you said, so many strong masters are on the 200th and 201st floors. What if we can't beat them?" Han Fei nodded. "That's true. No matter how small a white shrimp is, it has meat. Besides, we are already on the 148th floor, and there are almost no weak people who can make it here. So, we can't let go of any of them." Chao Chiu, Xia Shaochan was a very straightforward person. After the three met, without saying a word, she took out a sea-swallowing seashell and sacrificed it. A illusion jellyfish was quickly killed by her with the 1,000-strike technique within 10 minutes. Chao Chiu was stunned by her smooth battle process. Han Fei had already finished and was looking at Chao Chiu. "We're waiting for you. Hurry up." "Chao Chiu, you have to wait for me for a while." Han Fei. Chao Chiu sacrificed and summoned a ghost serpent. Han Fei exclaimed in surprise. Back then, in the deep-sea jungle of the Level 2 fishery, Zhang Xuanyu was almost killed by this thing. Xia Shaochan sat cross-legged on the ground next to Han Fei, and then said to him via voice transmission, "I found a secret." Han Fei frowned. "What secret?" Xia Shaochan's face changed, and she said secretly, "There are man-fish in the steps into the sea." Han Fei was surprised. "What? You summoned a man-fish?" Xia Shaochan shook her head. "I didn't, but I smelled the smell of man-fish from the creatures I summoned." Han Fei's eyelids twitched. "What kind of man-fish?" Xia Shaochan pursed her lips and recalled. "It seems to be the most disgusting kind. But it also seems to have the smell of inferior man-fish, but it is very weak." With that, Xia Shaochan tilted her head and looked at Han Fei. "Where do you think these summoned creatures come from?" Han Fei shook his head. "I don't know. However, if there are man-fish, I'm afraid the road ahead will be dangerous. But I believe there shouldn't be any man-fish on the 200th floor. But beyond the 200th floor, it's hard to say." Xia Shaochan nodded. "Actually, I lied to him just now. In fact, I snatched more than 800 sea-swallowing seashells." Han Fei was amused. He suddenly hugged Xia Shaochan's head and kissed her on the cheek. This girl was so cute. Han Fei felt that Xia Shaochan was really stupid when she should be smart, but she was stupid when she shouldn't be smart. Xia Shaochan was annoyed, wiped her mouth with her hand, and asked, "What are you doing?" Han Fei said with a smile, "With Chao Chiu, who is not good at math, it makes no difference whether you have 600 or 1,000. What he cares about is not this thing at all. But keep your sea-swallowing seashells. Anyway, we will meet on every floor below. When there are no more, I will be with you." On the other side, Chao Chiu's eyes caught the scene of Han Fei kissing Xia Shaochan. While he was dazed, the ghost serpent hit him in the stomach, and he was sent flying hundreds of meters away. Chao Chiu said angrily, "You are too much. I am fighting, and you are actually in love next to me." The author said, "To the question of how long it will take to get to the Level 3 fishery, wait for me. I can't be fast even if I want to. A lot of plots are strung together, so I need to take my time." End of this chapter. Chapter 444. Chao Chiu's fighting style was very strange, or rather, this little fatty didn't know how to fight at all. In Han Fei and Xia Shaochan's eyes, Chao Chiu was wearing an ultra-quality battlesuit, holding an ultra-quality spiritual weapon big shield in his left hand, an ultra-quality spiritual weapon war hammer in his right hand, and 2 ultra-quality moon scimitars floating beside him. His equipment was so gorgeous that it almost blinded Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan's eyes. Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan's eyes were almost popping out of their sockets. They couldn't wait to snatch this little fatty away. But this was not the most amazing thing. His spiritual beasts and contractual spiritual beasts were really eye-openers for Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan. In Han Fei's eyes data appeared. Name Blazing Fish, Chao Qiuqiu's spiritual beast. Introduction: an exotic fish of the light and shadow type. It can emit 3 different kinds of light. The intense light can cause blindness. The flame light has overbearing lethality. The mysterious blue light has hallucinogenic effect. Level 33 quality, legendary, contains soul energy greater than 820 points. Han Fei was dumbfounded. How the hell did this little fatty give birth to such a magical spiritual beast? A spiritual beast with 3 kinds of power. Could blind, hallucinogenic, and attack. In terms of ability, it was not inferior to the 9-tailed mantis shrimp. Although ability didn't matter how much it was, but how effective it was in fighting against the enemy, a legendary spiritual beast was definitely not bad. At this moment, the blazing fish's eyes were glowing like stage lights, flashing and shooting out laser beams. The ghost serpent on the other side didn't even know where to attack. It was probably blinded by the light. But in such an advantageous situation, Chao Qiu didn't have the slightest urge to rush forward and fight. On the contrary, he called out his contractual spiritual beast. When he saw this contractual spiritual beast, Han Fei was stunned again. After all, it was destined that your spiritual beast was weird, but why is your contractual spiritual beast also so weird? At this moment, 2 contractual spiritual beasts appeared beside Chao Qiu. Name Poisonous Bubble Fish, Chao Qiu's contractual spiritual beast. Introduction: a fish as soft as a jellyfish. Its whole body is highly poisonous, it can split and recombine, and it can spit poisonous bubbles to attack the enemy. Level 36 quality, exotic, contains spiritual energy greater than 2,156 points. Food: eats poisonous insects and plants. Remark: in its perfect state, it can completely turn into venom. Han Fei was quite calm when he saw the bubble fish. It was a kind of soft fish with an ugly appearance and a transparent body. At this moment, the ugly fish was spitting bubbles at the ghost serpent. The bubbles were the size of a palm, like soap bubbles played by a child. In the blink of an eye, there were over 100 of them. Then, Chao Qiu kept shouting, "Xiaoyun, hurry up and smash it to death." The one named Cloud was another contractual spiritual beast of Chao Qiu. Name Cloud Dolphin, Chao Qiu's contractual spiritual beast. Introduction: a creature with extremely high defensive power. When it encounters danger, it will turn into a ball. No matter how many sharp weapons attack it, it will not break. At its peak state, its entire body's defensive power will increase by 9 times. Level 32 Equality. Exotic, contains spiritual energy greater than 1916 points. Food: like spiritual plants. Remarks: current state, 3 times the defense. The body of this cloud dolphin looked like a ballfish, but it was white and looked much better than a ballfish. At this moment, this cloud dolphin was round and rammed at the ghost serpent like a cannonball, and Chao Qiu himself used the 2 moon scimitars to launch sneak attacks from time to time. Occasionally, he would circle to the side of the ghost serpent and suddenly hit it with the heavy hammer in his hand. However, what made Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan dumbfounded was that Chao Qiu always ran away as soon as he hit the hammer, for fear that the ghost serpent would swing its tail and hit him. Han Fei gnashed his teeth and said, "I really want to kill this little fatty. He's 2F** King Rich." Xia Xiaochan's face was black. "I want to kill him too. He is the most cowardly person I have ever seen. Even if he just stands there, I'm afraid the ghost serpent can't hurt him." "What is he afraid of?" Han Fei resisted the urge to kill Chao Qiu and said angrily, "Damn it, can't you just kill this ghost serpent?" Chao Qiu said in panic, "I'm already working very hard. Look how fierce my attacks are." "Fierce my ass. You've been fighting for a long time and only launched 3 sneak attacks." While performing, Chao Qiu responded, "This is my tactic. Let the enemy run for his life, and I will naturally be invincible." Swish, Xia Shaochan flashed and appeared next to the ghost serpent, cutting it from head to tail with the dagger in her hand. When the ghost serpent swung its tail horizontally, Xia Shaochan flashed again and had already reached the bottom of the ghost serpent, cutting another huge wound. This was repeated 3 times, and the supreme stab directly penetrated the ghost serpent's head. Xia Shaochan flashed and returned to Han Fei's side. Han Fei said, "Xia Shaochan, you've been exposed." Xia Shaochan said, "I can't stand this guy anymore." With a flash of light, Chao Qiu's spiritual beasts and contractual spiritual beasts were all taken back by him. Immediately afterward, all the ultra-quality spiritual weapons on him that were armed to the teeth also disappeared into his body. Chao Qiu glanced at Xia Shaochan cautiously. "I can kill it alone." Xia Shaochan glared back. "Shut up and go to the next floor. If you dawdle again, I'll kill you too." Chao Qiu shivered and immediately shut up. After grabbing a jade slip in the water ball, his body began to fade gradually. Han Fei had a headache and could only comfort her on the side. "Don't be angry. He's just a little afraid of death. Let's go. Let's go to the next floor and search. I guess he's almost finished after we've searched." On the 149th floor, Han Fei ran around for nearly an hour and robbed 6 people, but he didn't meet Xia Shaochan, but he met Chao Qiu, who was fighting. This guy was still fighting exactly the same way as just now, which made Han Fei's eyes burn. Han Fei couldn't help but go up and hit the crab with 2 bricks. Chao Qiu was surprised. "Huh? Let me tell you, in fact, it would be dead in half an hour." Han Fei snorted. "Shut up. Next time, hurry up. You're covered in ultra-quality spiritual weapons. Why are you dawdling over there? Believe it or not, I will kill you and take away all your ultra-quality spiritual weapons." Chao Qiu curled his lips. "You can't kill me." Han Fei really wanted to hit this guy's head with a brick. "How dare you call yourself a genius? And you want to kill the children of other big clans in the 1,000-star city? I'm afraid that any F***king person can beat you to the ground and make you kneel on the ground and call me daddy." After another half an hour, Han Fei finally found Xia Shaochan, and then they entered the 150th floor. The 150th floor was the last floor of the 3rd level of the steps into the sea. There were as many as 100 people staying here, which made Han Fei very happy. At this moment, Han Fei was shouting to a group of 5 people, "I'm here to rob you, not to kill you." Xia Shaochan stood next to Han Fei. "Hand over your sea-swallowing seashells, and I'll spare your lives." Before, it was Han Fei or Xia Shaochan who went alone. At this moment, the black and white double ghosts could finally act together, and their behavior was surprisingly similar. However, the first thing the 5 people paid attention to was not Han Fei or Xia Shaochan, but Chao Qiu, who was desperate. Someone said coldly, "Young Master Chao, we don't seem to have offended you, right?" Chao Qiu shrugged. "It's none of my business. I didn't rob you." Someone was so angry that he gnashed his teeth. "Young Master Chao, we have no grudge against you. Why do you have to make things difficult for us?" Han Fei snorted. "Hey, the 2 of us are the robbers, okay?" Xia Shaochan nodded in agreement. "Where's the most basic respect between people? What's there to be afraid of? We, the black and white ghosts, are the scariest." Chao Qiu smiled bitterly. "These 2 are simply king perfect match. If these 2 didn't fall in love, it would be intolerable." Someone tried to fight back, but when Han Fei took out the blood-drinking knife and smashed a high-quality spiritual weapon, everyone was stunned. Xia Xiaochan's footwork was weird. When she stabbed a person in the stomach with a stick, someone gave up. Someone was horrified. Is she a *King Soul Warrior or a hunter? Why were battle soul masters even weirder than hunters? Someone crushed a flash stone, and then with a bang, it hit the six-gate formation. The 5 people were desperate and looked at Han Fei and Xia Shaochan in horror. Brother, let's talk. Han Fei went up and hit them with a brick. Why did you resist? Why did you disrespect me? Tears were about to fall from these people's eyes. These two were real bullies. Sometimes, robbers could still bargain for a bit. But these 2 robbers wanted others to respect their words. Everyone looked at Chao Chiu, who was looking around not far away, and took out their sea-swallowing seashells. At the same time, they were shocked. Who the hell are these black and white ghosts? Why are they so fierce that even the young master of the Chao family doesn't want to offend them? After a moment, Han Fei and Xia Shaochan, head to head, were picking sea-swallowing seashells with a big starfish. Xia Shaochan exclaimed, "Wow, I found a battle suit here. Unfortunately, it's not for a woman. Here you go." Han Fei took it and looked at it. "A high-quality battle suit, I already have one. Okay, I'll keep it." Suddenly, Han Fei said, "Hey, Xie Xiaoan, I have 2 daggers here, high-quality spiritual weapons. You can use them." Xia Shaochan nodded. "Let me tell you a secret, I have a better one now." On the other side, Chao Chiu was speechless. Why the hell did I find these 2 people to be my allies? What the *CK? Could they still have fun like this? Especially Han Fei. Chao Chiu felt that this guy didn't seem to care about hiding. Otherwise, can you *King tell me, why did you give a dagger to a soul warrior? To eat? From time to time, the starfish with 6 eyes saw something shiny and immediately said, "This is mine. Give this to me." Chao Chiu felt tired. Damn it, where did they get this talking starfish? Chao Chiu had always thought that the starfish clinging to Han Fei was an ornament. But now the ornament suddenly spoke. "Hey, you 3, do you think I don't exist?" Chapter 445. The reason why Han Fei and Xia Shaochan subconsciously ignored Chao Chiu was because of his wretched fighting style. A man armed to the teeth with an ultra-quality spiritual weapon, a man with a legendary spiritual beast, a man with a super defensive contractual spiritual beast, and the disgusting poisonous bubble fish. He was fighting like a 5-year-old child. No matter who it was, their mental defenses would crumble on the 151st floor. After coming here, Han Fei found that it would cost 500,000 points of spiritual energy to sacrifice at a time. Of course, Han Fei didn't want to sacrifice with spiritual stones, but directly sacrificed an entire sea-swallowing seashell. The creature summoned here was level 39 as soon as it appeared. Besides, it was not the ordinary level 39, but the kind of creature that was stuck at the threshold of a breakthrough. It seemed that it would break through to level 40 at any time and reach another realm. Han Fei was shocked. Are the creatures here so strong? If they encountered such a creature on the 151st floor, what would happen on the 201st floor? Although the creatures here were a little weaker than mutant creatures like the monstrous octopus, they were only a little weaker. At this moment, Han Fei summoned a 1,000-blade turtle. This was much higher level than the one Lu Renquan caught. Fortunately, this was a 1,000-blade turtle. If it were a water arrow turtle, Han Fei would have to spend more effort. This 1,000-blade turtle might have better luck if it encountered other people. However, at this moment, it was facing Han Fei. Even if it threw 1,000 blades, it couldn't shake Han Fei at all. At this moment, Han Fei was wearing a high-quality battlesuit, so he just let the blades slash on his body. As for himself, he held the embroidery needle and smashed the 1,000-bladed tortoise. Bm. The 1,000-blade turtle's limbs were too weak and it was smashed to the ground by Han Fei. Han Fei grinned. Since he used the embroidery needle, he hadn't seen many creatures that could resist the power of the embroidery needle. Only creatures like the tortoise had tyrannical defensive power and strength that far surpassed other creatures of the same level could withstand the repeated smashes of the embroidery needle. When the three of them gathered again, there were another 118 sea-swallowing seashells. Among them, none of the sea-swallowing seashells was robbed by Chao Qiu. When Han Fei and Xia Shaochan found Chao Qiu, he was chatting with a group of people. When Han Fei and Xia Xiaobai arrived, none of those people could escape. He asked Chao Qiu why he was sitting and chatting with people in the steps into the sea. It turned out that those people all knew Chao Qiu and knew that the young master of the Chao family didn't like robbing people. No one dared to rob him because of his identity, so this weird scene happened. The 188th floor. Here, the range of the steps into the sea was even smaller, less than 400 miles. It was also here that Han Fei met the second descendant of the Thousand-Star City besides Chao Qiu. Han Fei didn't have time to find Xia Shaochan and Chao Qiu. As soon as he appeared on the 188th floor, he saw people fighting several miles away. The young man who was fighting was holding a superior-grade spiritual sword. His arms seemed to have turned into two swords, and there was a faint yellow profound light under his feet. At this moment, this young man was circling around a green sun centipede as he fought. Every time his figure appeared, there would always be a frightening blade aura, and then a few centipede legs would be cut off by his sword. Han Fei came here with the mentality of watching a robbery. However, as soon as he was 500 meters away from the battle between the two, he heard a shout. "Get lost!" Han Fei looked around and found that there was no one else. Obviously, this person was talking to him. Thus, he walked another 100 meters forward. The young man suddenly appeared on the head of the big centipede, and the sharp blade in his hand tore off a large piece of the centipede's carapace. At the same time, the young man tilted his head and glanced at Han Fei. "I told you to get lost, or die." Han Fei was amused when he heard this. This young man was not weak. As an advanced dangling fisher, his combat power was at least stronger than that of ordinary peak-level dangling fishers. Perhaps because this young man was used to being arrogant, he was extremely contemptuous of Han Fei, who was peeping on the side and threatened him. Han Fei grinned. "Come on, get lost. Let me try." The two swords in the young man's hands suddenly merged, and an astonishing sword energy tens of meters long instantly pierced the head of the big centipede. The young man didn't even look at the centipede, grabbed the floating water ball, and threw it into the sea-swallowing seashell. Then, the young man held the swords in both hands and walked towards Han Fei step by step. "Intermediate dangling fisher, since you can reach the 188th floor, you must be a heavenly talent. However, I have seen a lot of heavenly talents, but most of them will die under my sword." Han Fei said with a smile, "Who are you? Do you have to be so arrogant?" The corners of the young man's mouth trembled twice, revealing a trace of ruthlessness. "Since you can come here, you are qualified to know my name. My name is Wang Zetian, the last person you will ever see in your life." With that said, Wang Zetian stepped on the ground and his body had already rushed out dozens of meters. What was faster than him was a wisp of his sword intent. After seeing that sword intent, Han Fei narrowed his eyes slightly. Knives and swords were so strong that in many cases, the knife light and sword intent alone could hurt people. His drawing technique was a killing technique with saber radiant. The knife light flashed as if to sweep away all the obstacles on the way ahead and directly cut the enemy in front of him. And this sword attack of Wang Zetian made Han Fei understand that this was a young man who had comprehended sword intent. With just this wisp of sword intent, few ordinary peak-level dangling fishers could match him. The reason why Wang Zetian used sword intent in the first move as soon as they met was precisely because he recognized Han Fei. In the eyes of these strong masters, realm didn't mean everything. Those who could come here all relied on their strength. Han Fei didn't dare to neglect this person. This person was not the first genius powerhouse he had met. In addition to Xia Shaochan and the other three, the Sun Mu trio was definitely not weak. Immediately, a battle between evenly matched strong masters somehow emerged in Han Fei's mind. In an instant, the blood-drinking knife moved. Just when the wisp of sword intent was 10 meters away from Han Fei, pop, there was no violent explosion, nor were there layers of vibrating ripples. Like a bubble in the sea, the knife light and the sword intent offset each other, and then annihilated each other. Humph, interesting. Then let's see my explosive sword flow again. Suddenly, a flickering light ignited between Wang Zetian's hands. What Han Fei saw was not the two swords between Wang Zetian's hands, but thousands of swords above him. At Wang Zetian's side, thousands of sword shadows advanced side by side, like a wall of swords pushing forward. The corners of Han Fei's mouth twitched. Before the swords arrived, the seawater beside him had already begun to roll back, and the rolling water had already set off a force of 1,000 pounds. Han Fei glanced at the blood-drinking knife in his hand and immediately sheathed it at his waist. The embroidery needle was raised horizontally, and spiritual energy gushed from the tip of the rod. Han Fei held the tail of the rod and attacked with all his strength, without holding back at all. The blood-drinking knife was suitable for surprise attacks, but in the face of people like Wang Zetian, there was no problem of sneak attacks. In this kind of head-on confrontation, the advantage of strange moves was no longer there. All Han Fei could do was to attack with force. In an instant, the water was pierced by Han Fei's rod, setting off a huge wave, which blasted straight at the awe-inspiring sword wall. Bang! At the moment when the rod and the sword collided, it exploded like a warhead detonating in the water, and a circle of ripples shook out dozens of kilometers away in the blink of an eye. Puff! Wang Zetian took 7 or 8 steps back in a row, blood oozing from the corners of his mouth, and his arms drooping. When the awe-inspiring sword intent disappeared, Han Fei gently put down the embroidery needle. I didn't expect that a sword user could be so strong. However, young man, you chose the wrong target. I, the Black Ghost, can steal people's souls, and even ghosts dare to avoid me. You're still too young to kill me. Wang Zetian tilted his head, spat out a mouthful of blood fiercely and casually, and then said with a cold face, "Not bad, but do you think you can rob me with this?" Wang Zetian's body stood straight, like a sword hanging from the sky, proud and straight. Han Fei put the embroidery needle vertically in front of him. Maybe you still have trump cards, but you absolutely can't escape. I'm sorry, brother, to rob a passerby and kill a man for a life. At this time, Han Fei didn't know who Wang Zetian was. But this kind of person was not simple at first glance. In order to prevent this person from going out and making trouble for him, he gave up the previous principle of not taking Wang Zetian's life. He would kill this kind of genius if he could. Suddenly, Han Fei seemed to understand something. Why did some people like to torture and kill heavenly talent? Because if these people didn't die, who knew how much trouble they would bring to him in the future? It was easy to kill them now, but he might not have a chance to kill them in the future. Just when Han Fei was about to continue, he suddenly saw a petite and a slightly fat figure swimming over. Fan Datong. Han Fei turned his head and looked at them. You're here? Chapter 446. Just when the scene was at loggerheads, Cao Qiu came. Wang Zetian's fighting intent faded a little when he saw Cao Qiu. Cao Qiu stared at Wang Zetian in surprise. 2 swords, you are here too? Wang Zetian's face suddenly darkened. I dare you to call me that again. Cao Qiu stuck out his tongue at Wang Zetian. 2 swords, 2 swords, 2 swords, Wang Zetian slashed at him with his sword. Then, he saw a big ball blocking in front of Cao Qiu, which was his cloud dolphin with strong defensive power. After slashing, Wang Zetian jumped back a few steps. Because Xia Shaochan was stroking the stick in her hand, and she was very hostile. Wang Zetian frowned. Cao Qiu, who are they? Cao Qiu glanced at Han Fei, then patted his chest and said, My teammate. Xia Shaochan glanced at Han Fei. Do you want to rob them? Han Fei glanced at Chao Chiu and then looked at Wang Zetian. It's useless. Hand over your sea-swallowing seashell. Chao Chiu hurriedly shouted, Hey, don't. Although Two Swords is a bit arrogant, he is a good guy. We can make him our teammate. Impossible. Han Fei and Wang Zetian shouted at the same time. Chao Chiu grunted. Why? Han Fei grinned. If he hands over his sea-swallowing seashell, we can continue to be good friends. Wang Zetian sneered. In your dreams. Although you are powerful, it's impossible for you to keep me here. Just as Wang Zetian finished this sentence, he saw 6 purple lights floating in the air. In the blink of an eye, Wang Zetian was trapped inside. Wang Zetian frowned and pinched an ancient jade in his hand. The next moment, a majestic sword intent that seemed to penetrate the world fell on the 6-gate formation with a clang. However, a scene that shocked Wang Zetian happened. The purple light formation was only a little weakened, but it recovered in the blink of an eye. How is it possible? Wang Zetian's heart skipped a beat. When he was about to launch another sword strike, he found that Han Fei and Xia Shaochan were already standing in the 6-gate formation. The hexagon starfish said to him via voice transmission, This man is so strong. I can't trap him anymore with that kind of power just now. Han Fei said telepathically, Don't worry. He won't have a chance to use it 3 times. Outside the 6-gate formation, Chao Chiu hurriedly shouted, Don't fight. Black and white impermanence, our target is not Two Swords, but those guys on the 200th floor. Han Fei said leisurely, Didn't you say that the descendants of the big clans in the 1,000-star city deserve to die? Chao Chiu quickly explained, Not all of them deserve to die. Two Swords is an exception. Han Fei thought for a moment. Hey you, give me the soul crystals and I'll let you go. Wang Zetian looked at Chao Chiu. Did you find them to deal with those guys? Chao Chiu nodded repeatedly. Yes. Wang Zetian glanced at the 6-gate formation, then at Han Fei and Xia Shaochan, snorted coldly, and threw out 3 soul crystals. Wang Zetian said, After this trip, you and I will fight fair and square. Han Fei grabbed the soul crystals, threw 2 to Xia Shaochan, and said telepathically, Wrap the soul crystals with your spiritual power and absorb them. Your perception range will be increased by 100 meters in about 2 days. Xia Shaochan was slightly taken aback. Really? I've also snatched 5, but I haven't used them yet. Han Fei staggered. Where did you get so many? Xia Shaochan said. You didn't rob them, but I robbed them floor by floor. I saw you buy it before, so I've been paying attention. Do you want it? I'll split it with you. Han Fei slightly shook his head. I don't want it. It seemed that once one's perception reached 500 meters, 1 or 2 soul crystals wouldn't be able to change it. Every time there would be at least dozens of them. Even if you give me everything, I won't be able to increase it by much. Xia Shaochan nodded slightly. Of course, she wouldn't doubt what Han Fei said, let alone care about who gave what to whom. The few of them were used to sharing good things among themselves, so they wouldn't deliberately hold back. Han Fei turned his head and glanced at Master Hexagon Starfish. Withdraw the formation, Master Hexagon Starfish. Swish, when the 6-gate formation disappeared, Han Fei said with a smile, Hey, you are not bad. Let's fight together. Wang Zetian glanced at Han Fei and Xia Shaochan, then looked at Chao Chiu and said, What's the use of 4 soul warriors getting together? How can we fight against those guys? Han Fei was a little surprised. Chao Chiu and the others were really going to form a team to fight against the children of other big clans in the 1,000-star city? This confused Han Fei. Chao Chiu and the others seemed to be children of big clans in the 1,000-star city, right? Why did they hate each other so much? Chao Chiu grinned. It's okay, I'm prepared. Wang Zetian looked at Han Fei and Xia Shaochan and his expression changed a few times. Okay. But you too, don't blame me for not reminding you. None of them is weaker than me, especially that Chen Aochen. Especially that Chen Aochen, that guy's sword is much stronger than mine. Han Fei was about to ask who Chen Aochen was, but Chao Qiu said, I suddenly remember that Chen Aochen seems to have left. Wang Zetian frowned. Huh? What about Yi Baiyu? He doesn't seem to have left, but Yi Baiyu shouldn't be on the 200th floor. Wang Zetian nodded. Even so, there are still a lot of people on the 200th floor. Chao Qiu answered fluently. Don't forget, their internal relationship is not very good. Yang Diyu was a troublemaker. He would go wherever there was chaos. Mo Fian is a devil who only knows how to play trick. Don't be afraid of her. Sun Mu is the same as you. Few people want to play with him. Zhang Mingquan didn't come, and Zhang Wen didn't come. We have to be careful of Li Hai and Li Baizhou. The others are nothing to worry about. Han Fei and Xia Shaochan were dumbfounded as they listened on the side. Are these all the children of the big clans in the Thousand-Star City? Every one of them sounded quite fierce. Besides, in Chao Qiu's words, Sun Mu was a character who was not loved by his grandmother or uncle. But such a F***king character almost killed Han Fei in the sea grassland. How could the others be simple? Han Fei said, Stop. I'll be frank first. We, the black and white ghosts, only rob people, not kill them. We can fight and rob, but we won't kill people. Xia Shaochan echoed, Yes, we are here to hunt for treasures, not to kill people. Han Fei and Xia Shaochan were not stupid. They knew that the people Chao Qiu mentioned must be some big shot. If he killed all these people, God knew what terrible consequences it would cause. Even if he didn't want to deal with people like Sun Mu, Han Fei wouldn't kill them. Even if he wanted to kill them, it was definitely not at this time and place, especially with people like Chao Qiu and Wang Zetian. Wang Zetian snorted coldly. I don't expect you to kill them. It's still a question whether you can beat them. It's almost impossible to kill them. Chao Qiu said discontentedly, Why is it impossible? Wang Zetian glanced at Chao Qiu. Have the crappy things you invented ever hurt your brother? You can only invent fishing boats, but you can't do anything else. Chao Qiu was so angry that his face turned red. If I say it's possible, it's possible. You are uneducated. You don't understand. I don't want to explain it to you. Han Fei shrugged. So, now we have 4 people? Wang Zetian nodded. For the time being, let's cooperate. Han Fei glanced at Xia Shaochan. When we reach the 200th floor, if it's not necessary, just go invisible and don't show up. Xia Shaochan asked, What about you? Han Fei nodded. Fight. Even without these 2 guys, after we enter the 200th floor, I'm afraid we will encounter those people from the Thousand-Star City. Especially Sun Mu and the others, I think they are probably waiting for me here. In any case, we have to find a way to beat them all out this time. Xia Shaochan nodded slightly. That's right. Otherwise, if Xiaobai and Quanquang come, I'm afraid they won't be able to escape if they encounter so many masters at once. Wang Zetian asked, What did you say? Xia Shaochan rolled her eyes at him. It's none of your business. It's a secret. Wang Zetian said lightly, Since we are allies for the time being, don't play tricks. Otherwise, you will have one more enemy in the future. Han Fei sneered. Do you think I'm afraid of you? It's up to you whether you believe it or not. In this way, there was a new member in Han Fei's team of 3, a cold man who used a 2-handed sword. 7 days later. On the 197th floor, the 4 reunited again. At this moment, Xia Shaochan had already refined the soul crystal, and the perception range of her spiritual power had reached the upper limit of 500 meters. To a certain extent, Han Fei and Xia Shaochan's perception range was the same at this moment, 500 meters. Therefore, Han Fei also understood why most people in the level 3 fishery had a small perception range, and only the top geniuses had a large perception range. This time, they met. Chao Qiu said solemnly, Starting from the 198th floor, there will definitely be many geniuses on each floor. Wang Zetian said, but these people are not our targets. Most of them are heavenly talents from the major sects in the Thousand-Star City. Don't kill them. Chapter 447. Han Fei was slightly surprised. The heavenly talents of the major sects have nothing to do with your families? Chao Qiu shook his head. Basically nothing, but a little bit. All the major clans have tried to rope in some of the prodigies from the major sects, but their relationship isn't that deep. Han Fei frowned. He didn't know anything about the Thousand-Star City, but from what Chao Qiu said, he vaguely knew that there were many big families in the Thousand-Star City. The bottom 200 floors of the steps into the sea were almost all reserved by the disciples of the big clans. As for the prodigies from the 36 towns, it was not that there were none, but that there were very few of them. After all, everyone's birth was different. Some people's mothers gave birth to them at the beginning, while some people's mothers gave birth to them at the end. Fortuitous encounters were of no use unless they were extremely good. Who could really come to the level 3 fishery hadn't encountered an opportunity. Han Fei immediately wanted to ask if there was any news about Tango. However, when the words were about to come out of his mouth, he swallowed them back. He was not in a good situation right now. Apart from anything else, Han Fei's possession of the sea token put him on the opposite side of many children of the big clans in the Thousand-Star City. Even though Han Fei felt that Chao Qiu, the little fatty, wouldn't think too much about it, he would never tell his relationship with Tang Ge to an outsider. Han Fei simply asked indirectly, "Do the children of the big families go to the so-called major sects to study?" Han Fei knew that Tang Ge had been taken away for intensive training, but he didn't know where. But judging from how Fang Zhe searched everywhere, Han Fei didn't think that a family should be capable of doing that. At this moment, after Chao Qiu mentioned it, he wondered if Tang Ge had been taken to a so-called major sect. Chao Qiu didn't think there was anything wrong with Han Fei's question. He just thought he was curious, so he said, "Of course there is. We all have to enter a big sect to study, but it doesn't necessarily have to be in the same big sect." Han Fei frowned. "Even those heavenly talents of the major sects can't be killed?" Wang Zetian said lightly, "It's best not to kill them if you can." No one who could reach the 200th floor was simple. These people have been given all kinds of treasures by the sect, and their life-saving methods are no less than ours. Furthermore, it wasn't like there weren't any teachers in the major sects who were protective of their students. If those unreasonable people really want to go to the lower world to take people away, who in the level 3 fishery can stop them? Han Fei clicked his tongue. That's a pity. However, the slogan of our black and white impermanence is to rob passers-by and not take their lives. It's fine. Wang Zetian glanced at Han Fei. Why do I remember that you just told me that you wanted to rob me and kill me? Oh really? Maybe I said it wrong. The four of them chatted for a while before entering the 198th floor. Han Fei didn't mention Tang Ji's name at all. In fact, he didn't mention Tang Ji's name to Xia Shaochan and the others, because it was unnecessary. When Han Fei appeared on the 198th floor, he didn't see anyone. This time, he didn't offer the sacrifice immediately. Instead, he started searching aimlessly. Now that they were on the 198th floor, the steps were gradually getting smaller, and the chances of encountering people were higher. Sure enough, as Han Fei expected, after only about dozens of kilometers, he met an armorist and a manipulator. Both of them were wearing blue robes, which seemed to be the same uniform. After seeing Han Fei, the two exchanged a glance and immediately swam towards Han Fei. Han Fei didn't leave but still waited calmly for the two to come over. An intermediate dangling fisher. Senior brother, this person is not simple. The manipulator girl's face changed slightly and she whispered to the armorist next to her. He is not simple, but it doesn't matter. No matter how strong an intermediate dangling fisher is, he can only reach the limit of a peak-level dangling fisher. Even if he is a strong peak-level dangling fisher, the two of us can deal with him. Seeing the two of them coming up to him, Han Fei grinned. Nice to meet you. I just want your money, not your lives. Please hand over your sea-swallowing seashells. The manipulator asked, Senior brother, is this guy stupid? He seems to want to rob us? The armorist put the armor box aside. If you win, your things will be yours. If you lose, your things will belong to us. Han Fei said with a smile, Okay. Which of you will come first? The armorist smiled slightly. We of course will come together. As soon as he said that, thousands of golden lights flashed in all directions. Under Han Fei's feet, an array made of black balls appeared. Han Fei's body twisted back and forth in the golden light. The manipulator was dumbfounded by his strange postures. Han Fei wiped the blood-drinking knife on a few golden threads around him. What sharp golden threads! Unfortunately, they are useless to me. As for this array, Han Fei secretly said to the hexagon starfish via voice transmission, Master Hexagon Starfish, it's all yours. Outside the black stone array, 6 purple lights rose, and the hexagon starfish set up another array outside this one. The armorist frowned. Not only did the other party not try to break the ceiling array he set up, but he even set up another array outside? The question was, in this case, why would Han Fei be afraid that they would run away? How damn confident did he have to be to do such a thing? Among the thousands of threads, dense black thorns like pear flowers in a rainstorm spurted out of the armorist's armor box. Hey! Han Fei held the whetstone in his left hand and made it bigger, trying to block it. However, he found that those black thorns had similar characteristics to the million knife art. They circled and chased after Han Fei. Clank, clank, clank. Han Fei put away the whetstone, and the blood-drinking knife was full of knife intent. After one slash, all the golden threads along the way were broken, and a large number of black thorns were chopped away. Not bad. Han Fei frowned slightly. The person who used the black thorns was not weak and was a very special armorist. There seemed to be no swords in his armor box, but all needles, and they were very powerful. However, Han Fei didn't believe that an armorist could have such powerful spiritual power. He was not weak. If he had enough weapons now, it should be easy for him to control 50 blue sea wandering dragon daggers. But once there were more daggers, such as 80 or 100, even Han Fei couldn't control them. And the armorist in front of him could control more than 1,000 black needles. More than 10,000. Therefore, Han Fei was sure that the so-called black needles were not as flexible as they seemed. Han Fei's body was covered with small spots. Although none of the needles could penetrate his body, they were so powerful that they could leave tiny needle holes on his body surface. This had already shown the strength of this armorist. Han Fei suddenly changed direction and went straight to the manipulator. The manipulator was slightly startled and a large number of golden threads swept out. However, Han Fei's speed was a bit fast. If it were an ordinary peak-level dangling fisher, her golden threads could even kill the opponent directly. But not now. Han Fei only needed one slash to cut off all the golden threads. On the other side, the armorist's face changed slightly and he quickly came to the rescue. Just when he grabbed the armor box and was about to arrive, Han Fei grinned and changed direction again. He stepped on the golden threads, swept past the black needles and golden threads, and slashed out. If Xia Xiaochan were here, she wouldn't be surprised. She knew how flexible Han Fei was. They were all born in chaotic battles and had competed with each other before. Han Fei could carry 4 people on his own. His agility was not just for show. If it were a head-on battle like Wang Zetian, Han Fei might not be able to play so fancy. But in this chaotic and intertwined scene, Han Fei's flexibility was vividly displayed. Han Fei needed to twist his body to avoid the golden threads, and the armorist directly asked the manipulator to let him in. What Han Fei wanted was the moment when the golden threads were let go. He used the draw technique and threw out the whetstone as a giant hidden weapon, followed by the embroidery needle. 3 consecutive strikes, the armorist was immediately knocked over and thousands of black needles fell. Chilla, at the last moment, the manipulator pulled the armorist away with the golden threads, and the two of them left the seal formation. Han Fei grinned. So, let's see who can break the formation faster. You two break the formation outside and I'll break yours. Let the game begin? Senior brother, what should we do? The armorist coughed up a mouthful of blood, his face pale, and one of his hands drooped softly. This guy is so strong. Which sect is he from? Why haven't I seen him before? Senior brother, maybe he is a disciple of a big clan. Impossible. How much practice does he have to go through to use that weird footwork just now? Many of them were extremely dangerous, and they fought with no regard for their lives. How many disciples of big clans do you think are so desperate? Senior brother, do you understand this formation? With that, the manipulator looked at the 6-gate formation. With a wave of her fingers, thousands of golden threads hit countless places of the 6-gate formation, searching for the formation eye, but there was no response at all. On the other hand, Han Fei just walked to a certain stone among the black stones on the ground and smashed it with his rod. The stone cracked and the formation was broken. The hexagon starfish climbed up Han Fei's calf. This formation is simple. This human is not good at formations. Han Fei smiled and looked at the two of them. Hey, if I wasn't careful, the formation would break. First, asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 448. The faces of the armorist and the manipulator changed slightly, and they took out a jade pendant and held it in their hands. The armorist sneered. Do you really think you can kill us? Han Fei clicked his tongue. Amulet? Yes, you have more trump cards. I can't beat you, but I can wait. When my people come, they can kill you. You know this is an amulet? Which sect are you from? Han Fei grinned. I'm from the countryside. It's fine. You keep holding it. I'm not in a hurry. With that, Han Fei moved his fingers, took out a bag of air that he had prepared, and took a deep breath. Then, he took out a fish skin bag, which was filled with small dried fish. In front of the two of them, he began to chew. Han Fei asked, By the way, is your teacher so stingy? He only gave you 1 amulet each? Let me be frank, if you only have an amulet, I'm afraid it won't work. Do you have an immortal seal? What about a dying strike? The two of them turned green when they heard this. They were a little suspicious about how Han Fei learned the internal secrets of these big families. Even in the big families of the Thousand-Star City, ordinary clansmen didn't even dare to hope to obtain a life-saving means like an immortal seal. Only the outstanding geniuses within the family were qualified to enjoy these things. After all, the relationships of the same family were complicated, and it was impossible to be impartial. They had never heard of this Han Fei in front of them. Since he could defeat the two of them as an intermediate dangling fisher, he was definitely not an ordinary person. There was no reason that they hadn't heard of him. The manipulator girl was a little nervous. She looked at Han Fei and said, If you kill us, your life tablet will shatter, which is not a trivial matter. Han Fei shrugged. I'm not going to kill you. I'll wait for someone who has the ability to kill you. I'm not in a hurry. After half an hour, the two of them seemed to have communicated many times, and when they saw a figure appear in the distance, their faces changed. The armorist said, Here's your sea-swallowing seashell. Unseal it. Han Fei picked up the sea-swallowing seashells that they threw at him and said with a smile, You should have done this a long time ago. After that, he got up and shouted at the man who was flying over, You, come down. You're just a robber. Hand over your sea-swallowing seashell. The armorist and the manipulator's faces all turned green. So, they're not your people? However, after a brief discussion, the two of them decided not to join forces with the person who was coming from afar. The strength that Han Fei had just shown, that terrifying physique, That movement that seemed to be even more agile than an octopus, made them feel powerless. The most important thing was not Han Fei's strength, but his realm. They had seen many intermediate dangling fishers with such terrifying strength. As long as those big shots weren't dead, they were all monstrous existences. Which sect didn't have a few of such big shots? At this moment, they felt that they had encountered such a big shot who had hidden his identity to commit robbery and extortion. Seeing the two of them gradually fade out of sight, Han Fei got up and moved on to the next person. Half a day later, after robbing 12 people in a row, Han Fei unexpectedly met Wang Zetian. The two of them had nothing to say. Han Fei said, "I'm going to continue robbing." Wang Zetian nodded. "I'm going to find Chao Qiuqiu." The two of them met for less than 10 minutes and then left separately. When Han Fei saw Chao Qiu, this guy was being chased and beaten by 5 people. As soon as he saw Han Fei, Chao Qiu immediately wailed, "Big Tong, I finally found you. Big Tong, come and help me." Han Fei was speechless when he saw these 5 people. Oh my God, they were all wearing standard uniforms. He knew these 5 people, and at a glance, he could tell that they were from the same sect. Otherwise, how could their clothes be the same? Han Fei thought he was strong, but to be honest, these people were not weak either, although some of them were only advanced dangling fishers. In this place, a small realm could no longer represent strength. Chao Qiu might be able to resist the soul warrior and manipulator he just met, and Xia Shaochan could teleport away, but it would take Wang Zetian a lot of effort. Han Fei was speechless. "Hey little fatty, why don't you turn around and fight?" Chao Qiu said, "I can't beat them. These people are too fierce. They want to rob my sea-swallowing seashells." With that said, Chao Qiu turned around and said, "Don't chase them. We are all classmates. Don't be like this." However, the 5 people didn't care about Han Fei at all. Although they knew that Han Fei, as an intermediate dangling fisher, couldn't have come here easily, there were only 2 of them including Han Fei. The problem was that they knew Chao Qiu too well. Although this guy seemed to be wearing dazzling equipment, in fact, his combat power was only 5. Besides, he was a super rich guy. Who else would they chase if not him? Han Fei sighed. "Idiot, I don't expect you to fight. I might as well expect an iron-head fish to crash into a dragon boat." Then Han Fei pointed a kitchen knife at the 5 people and said, "I want money, not life. You 5, leave your sea-swallowing seashells." Where did this idiot come from? Is there something wrong with his brain? Have you been infected by Chao Qiuqiu? F***ck off. However, Han Fei's aura suddenly soared, and he activated the majestic mystic spell, and a terrifying power circulated on Han Fei's body surface. At that moment, Han Fei stood in front of Chao Qiu and didn't dare to use the draw technique. He was afraid that he would cut these people to death. The embroidery needle swept out at such a fast speed that an unparalleled rod shadow appeared. Not good, shield. An armorist slammed down a square shield, and then the 5 people immediately fused with their spiritual beast. However, they underestimated Han Fei at this moment. As soon as the majestic mystic spell was activated, his strength increased 5-fold. Han Fei was not bragging. Even if Chao Qiuqiu was equipped with top-quality weapons and possessed by the Cloud Dolphin, he could still beat him to death. Let alone these people in front of him who were completely unprepared. Rumble, the ripples vibrated, and an inverted tornado rolled up underwater. The shield wall was smashed by Han Fei's rod. The 5 people were sent flying at the same time. Master Hexagon. When the 6-gate formation rose, the hexagon starfish complained, "The 6-gate formation needs a lot of spiritual energy. I can't use it frequently. I feel that my spiritual energy is drying up." With 5 meat buns in front of him, Han Fei didn't have time to care about such a trivial matter. So, he took out 5 or 6 low-quality spiritual stones and threw them to the hexagon starfish. The hexagon starfish really wanted to vomit blood. This is too little. Han Fei scoffed. Shut up. I got the treasures. Didn't I give you all the shiny ones? You cry to me every day that you are poor. The hexagon starfish's big eyes kept rolling. Remembering that there were indeed a lot of good-looking stones in the gate, he couldn't help but shut up. He'd better not talk back to Han Fei. Otherwise, Han Fei wouldn't even give him low-quality spiritual stones. How miserable would that be? The 5 teenagers were also stunned. Among the 5 of them, the weakest one was an advanced dangling fisher. They hadn't even used their skills yet. How could they be defeated like this? Suddenly, there were lights and shadows everywhere in the 6-gate formation, and all kinds of dazzling and gorgeous skills burst out, knocking the 6-gate formation with clanging sounds. Han Fei was about to go and clean them up one by one, when he saw a big net falling from the sky and being thrown over. Someone exclaimed, "Not good, it's the spirit forbidden net. Damn it, I'm calling for help." Whoop, a strange sound spread from the bottom of the sea. Immediately afterward, the 5 people lost their temper. Their spiritual beasts and contractual spiritual beasts were cancelled one after another, and their spiritual energy was completely suppressed. Han Fei looked back at Chao Chiu and said helplessly, "Spirit forbidden net?" Han Fei's eyes narrowed slightly. How could I forget this? If Sun Mu could have the spirit forbidden net, why couldn't Chao Chiu have it? If Chao Chiu suddenly used it on me, wouldn't I be at his mercy? Immediately, Han Fei's heart skipped a beat. In the future, no matter what, I can't entrust my back to others. No matter how harmless Chao Chiu seemed to be, he couldn't help it. Of course, Chao Chiu didn't think so much at this moment. He arrogantly walked to the edge of the 6-gate formation, looked at the group of people, and said angrily, "How dare you rob me and beat me? I said you would get what you deserve. Look, karma is coming." Han Fei glanced at Chao Chiu. "Don't talk nonsense. What was that sound just now?" Chao Chiu suddenly understood. That was a summoning order. Hurry up and rob them, throw them into the steps into the sea, and then run away quickly. Han Fei's face was black. "Don't run. Just wait." Then Han Fei walked into the 6-gate formation rudely. "I want your money, not your life. Hand over your sea-swallowing seashells and I'll let you go." Someone snorted. "You don't dare to kill us." Han Fei sneered. "I don't dare to kill you, but do you think I don't dare to rob you?" With that said, Han Fei began to pull them over one by one. For a moment, there were wails and howls of anger. "Hey! My shoes! Why are you pulling my shoes? Hey, give me back my weapon! You can't use my weapon! Hey! I'm a girl! You can't touch me! Men and women shouldn't touch each other! Ah, don't pull my necklace! My earrings, you bastard! I will find you and beat you to death!" Han Fei was taken aback. "You want to beat me? This battle suit is good. I'll take it off." The little girl screamed, "Hey, hey! I've given you everything else. What else do you want? Hey, rogue, don't pull my clothes!" Gulp! Outside the formation, Chao Chiu broke out in a cold sweat. He immediately regretted showing his ultra-quality battle suit and weapons to Han Fei. If one day Han Fei was unhappy and pulled his clothes off, how miserable would that be? Han Fei was happily picking up other people's sea-swallowing seashells and treasures. Suddenly, he felt a familiar aura coming, but he didn't care. However, the next moment, he only felt a pain in his ear. "Hey, hey, hey! Xia Xiaochan, let go, let go!" Xia Xiaochan's face was black. "Shameless, why are you pulling my battlesuit?" Han Fei shrugged. "No, I'm going to get you a battlesuit, aren't I?" Xia Xiaochan said angrily. "I already have a battlesuit. You just want to peek at it." Han Fei shook his head. "I didn't. I'm innocent, however," the woman in the spirit forbidden net said angrily. "He molested me." Han Fei looked back. "Hey, you have to live with your conscience," Xia Xiaochan shouted. "Get out, I'll search." Suddenly, Xia Xiaochan felt that Han Fei's body stiffened and thought, did I hit him too hard? However, when she looked back, she found that Han Fei was staring at two people not far away. Xia Xiaochan wondered, what's wrong? Han Fei slowly spat out a mouthful of bubbles, narrowed his eyes slightly, and suddenly a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Old Tang. We've finally run into each other. Second update. Please vote. End of this chapter. Chapter 449. Han Fei had guessed whether Tang Gu would also come to the level 3 fishery to gain experience. However, he didn't expect that they would meet in this way under such circumstances. At this time, although Tang Gu was only a 15-year-old boy, he was 1.8 meters tall. His once young and tender face was now a little more square, with a hint of fortitude. Han Fei couldn't help but wonder if this guy's food was too good. From the looks of it, it was a body of muscles. Although he hadn't developed into a bodybuilder's pectoral muscles, he didn't look like a 15-year-old boy at all. Beside Tang Gu was a girl of the same age. The girl had a little baby fat, but her eyes were calm at this moment. At this moment, she was adding a set of spiritual clothes to Tang Gu and herself, and at the same time, she stepped on a speed array. She was actually a spirit gatherer. Besides, according to Han Fei's judgment, judging from the proficiency of this girl who had just stepped on a speed array, her attainments in arrays seemed to be better than his. After all, he couldn't step on a speed array with 1 foot. Tang Gu, holding a halberd taller than a man and wearing a gilded battle suit, was watching this scene coldly. Chao Qiuqiu, why did you make things difficult for your classmate? When Chao Qiu saw Tang Gu, he shrank his head. I didn't make things difficult for them. It was those 5 bastards who chased me and tried to rob my sea-swallowing seashell. Only then did we resist. Chao Qiu tried hard to straighten his chest, showing a matter-of-fact look. However, in Han Fei's opinion, he was clearly scared, wasn't he? The girl next to Tang Gu complained, Chao Qiuqiu, you usually take advantage of your brother and rob a lot of things. You should return some to them. In the spirit forbidden net, the girl shouted, Sister Mu Ling, we didn't want to rob him. It was he who robbed us of a high-quality spiritual weapon. Next to her, a boy echoed, yes, we just borrowed some resources from him. When we get to the sect, we will definitely borrow some from him. Chao Qiu immediately put his hands on his waist and said to the boy in the spirit forbidden net, who told you to hit me? If you didn't hit me, how could I rob your spiritual weapon? I don't care about a high-quality spiritual weapon. I can give it back to you. With that, Chao Qiu threw out an ancient sword. However, before the ancient sword flew 10 meters away, a fishing hook extended over. The picture changed, and Han Fei was holding a fishing rod and playing with the ancient sword. I'm just a passerby. Chao Qiu, you can't just throw away the loot you stole. Suddenly, Han Fei received Chao Qiu's voice transmission in his head. Give it to him, give it to him. You have no idea how fierce this Tang Gu is. In the entire school, he was the only one who dared to hit me in front of my brother. Yes, in front of my sister. Han Fei rolled his eyes. Shut up. You're embarrassing yourself. Tang Gu looked at Han Fei. For some reason, he felt that Han Fei looked familiar. But judging from their disguises, one was a ferocious ghost, and the other a ghost, they were obviously not good people. Instantly, his expression became even colder. Tang Gu said coldly, put it down and get lost. Han Fei was still smiling, but Xia Xiaochan was not afraid of trouble. Her eyes were also cold. Say it again. Tang Gu repeated expressionlessly, get lost. I'll stab you to death. Xia Xiaochan was furious. She couldn't stand Tang Ji's expression. She was about to attack, but Han Fei pulled her back. Han Fei secretly said to her, don't be angry. Don't be angry. He's one of us. Xia Xiaochan was stunned. What do you mean by one of us? I've never seen him. Is he Zhang Xuanyu? Yes, Quang can't be so tall and thin. But Zhang Xuanyu is not so strong. Han Fei spoke to Xia Xiaochan telepathically for a while, and Xia Xiaochan's expression changed several times. She looked at Han Fei in disbelief. "Why can't I tell that you are brothers?" Han Fei smiled and said, "What if I don't put it down?" Tang Ge raised the halberd with one hand and said indifferently, "Die." Just when Han Fei was about to say something, he saw another figure dashing over. He took a closer look. Who else could it be but Wang Zetian? Wang Zetian's attention was not on the 5 people tied up by Han Fei, but on Tang Ge, and at the same time, a strong fighting spirit burst out from him. "Humph," Tang Ge said coldly, "one is Chao Chiu, one is 2 swords, and 2 are unorthodox. Is there anyone else? Call them out together." Han Fei was speechless. Tang Ge was a bit arrogant now. "Xia Xiaochan and I are so awesome, but he thinks we are unorthodox?" Xia Xiaochan also said, "Your brother seems a bit arrogant?" Han Fei responded awkwardly, "Ah ha ha, arrogant? He must be pretending." Xia Xiaochan looked at Han Fei strangely. "Are you sure?" Han Fei took 2 steps forward and said, "Chao Chiu, Wang Zetian, you can go to the next floor. Hey, Tang Ge, do you want to fight one-on-one?" Everyone. Chao Chiu said, "Are you crazy? This guy is the same as my brother. Do you want to fight one-on-one with him?" Wang Zetian also said, "Idiot, do you want to die?" The few people trapped in the spirit forbidden net widened their eyes in disbelief. Is there something wrong with this person's brain? Puff. Fan Datong, right? If you want to fight one-on-one with Tang Ge, you will be defeated even if there are 2 more of you. The girl who was pulled by Han Fei said angrily, "You are dead. Tang Ge will definitely beat your hat crooked." Han Fei pointed at the girl with a kitchen knife and said, "Shut up, believe it or not, I will beat your mouth crooked first." The girl's momentum stagnated. Thinking of Han Fei's fierce look just now, she couldn't help but snort. Han Fei said, "Hey, I'll give you a chance. If you win, these people will belong to you. If you lose, give me your sea-swallowing seashell." Mu Ling, who was standing next to Tang Ge, couldn't help glancing at Tang Ge next to her and then at Han Fei. She couldn't help but deactivate the speed array and stood aside with interest. Then she said to Chao Chiu, "Chiu, if your sister finds out that you cheated your classmates again, she will definitely punish you." Chao Chiu pouted and said, "I didn't cheat my classmates. They cheated me." Seeing the 2 of them chatting next to each other, Tang Ge responded lightly, "Okay." Han Fei pouted. "Let's go. Find a place where there is no one." However, Tang Ge didn't move. "Right here." Han Fei's heart trembled. Tang Ge should be afraid that something would happen here after he left. If it were him, he would probably have the same concern. Han Fei smiled and said, "Okay, then let's do it here." This time, Han Fei put away the blood-drinking knife and the whetstone. In the next second, the spiritual energy under Han Fei's feet burst out and his figure shot out like a sharp arrow. His speed was so fast and fierce that Xia Xiaochan was stunned. However, Xia Xiaochan knew what he was going to do just now. Han Fei was taking this battle very seriously. In fact, Han Fei couldn't help but be a little curious in his heart. How much has Tang Ge grown now? At the moment when Han Fei jumped out, the seawater where he had been standing directly burst open and bubbles rolled. Wang Zetian was slightly surprised. What a strong force! Tang Ge just frowned slightly and then waved the halberd with one hand. 3 halos on his arm were pushed to the halberd with great force. Clang! The seawater directly exploded, and the rod and halberd collided, directly colliding into a huge water ball and exploding in all directions. The power of this one strike directly set off layers of waves stacked on top of one another. Except for the people in the 6-gate formation, the others were forced to retreat more than 100 meters away. Mu Ling exclaimed, "Huh? This guy in black clothes is so strong." Tang Ge took half a step back and slightly bent his feet. Han Fei also took half a step back, really horrified. he always felt that his growth was already terrifying enough. Who knew that Tengu was not weaker than him at all? Even when he used the embroidery needle, they were only evenly matched in strength. Xia Xiaochan stood on the side holding the rod, tilting her little head, and didn't look surprised at all. When Chao Qiu saw this scene, he immediately straightened his back. Humph, of course. Don't you know who found these allies? Mu Ling rolled her eyes at him. You think you can? Don't tell me you can lead them to the 200th floor? Chao Qiu retorted, why not? They were still watching the battle. Han Fei and Tengu were already locked in a fierce battle. Maybe the news outside said that Han Fei was good at using the million knife art, the 9-star chain, the water-dividing seal, etc. But only Xia Xiaochan knew that at the very beginning, Han Fei had always been a pure soul warrior. In the chaotic battle, he was even more outstanding. At this moment, Han Fei fully activated the shadow swimming art, and the speed of his rod was getting faster and faster. Because of the fierce force, every time the embroidery needle collided with the halberd, a water vortex would burst out. The long rod in Han Fei's hand was like a spear, and he didn't need any help to launch the spiral strike. At this moment, with one stab, he broke through 3 layers of water barriers. Tang Ji's fighting technique was very powerful, and circles of power halos gushed out from the halberd one after another, like countless circles superimposed on the halberd. After 100 moves, Tengu put his other hand on the halberd, which made Han Fei's eyes narrow. Oh my, is it finally going to be real? Chao Qiu immediately said to Han Fei, be careful, this is the strongest halberd technique of the Heavenly Sword sect. With 3 halberds you can kill dragons and snakes. Don't resist it head-on. The author said, the surprise I'm talking about is not adding more chapters, but Tengu has appeared. When the time comes, I will add chapters. Well, end of this chapter. Chapter 450. Reminded by Chao Qiu, Han Fei didn't dare to be careless. He channeled 2/3 of his spiritual energy into the embroidery needle and waved the long rod, as if it was flying. Rumble, Han Fei felt that he had smashed into a meteorite falling from the sky. Whether in speed or strength, it was not weaker than him at all. Han Fei was swept 70 or 80 meters away by the halberd, and his hand was torn. Chao Qiu said in surprise, I caught it. I caught it. Wang Zetian was lost in thought. How could he catch it? How strong was Han Fei's physique? For Han Fei, this result was beyond his expectation. His blow, which contained nearly 70% of his spiritual energy, was completely suppressed? The best halberd technique? TSK, the big sects are really different. I'm afraid you can't find a combat skill of this level in the library of the Thug Academy. A hint of interest flashed in Tang Ji's eyes. Not bad, you are very strong in both strength and speed. Han Fei shook his arms and chuckled. You are not bad either. Tang Ji's face changed slightly, and dozens of red flowing lines spread out on his arms. Then use all your strength. Let's see if you are qualified to keep the people of my Heavenly Sword sect here. Seeing that Han Fei's physique was abnormally strong, Tengu didn't seem to want to fight anymore. After all, if he couldn't completely defeat Han Fei with 3 halberds, he would be exhausted. In this case, he decided to use his strongest move directly. Dragon Soul Overlord Body. Beside Tengu, waves surged like a roll. Behind the layers of seawater, there seemed to be a huge phantom of an azure dragon emerging. And Tang Ji's muscles also swelled up. The momentum gave Han Fei the feeling that he had directly surpassed the level of a peak-level dangling fisher and was about to reach the level of a hanging fisher. Han Fei's face changed slightly. White Dragon Feather Lobster, Tang Ji's spiritual beast, legendary. It was hard to say what was the difference between the legendary and the mysterious level. But judging from the 9-star chain of the 9-tailed mantis shrimp and the heavenly thunder strike of little gold, it seemed that all the creatures at this level had their own advantages. The power that Tang Ji's white dragon feather lobster gave him seemed to be more like a secret method, unlike the supreme yin-yang wheel of Little Black and Little White, which increased their own combat power. Majestic mystic spell. Han Fei grinned, and billowing energy flowed on the surface of his body. The powerful impact of the energy made his body slightly red. Fight. Kill. In an instant, the two of them turned into two afterimages, flashing and moving in the water. Clang, clang, clang. When the rod and halberd collided, they only created a whirlpool of water. Then, at this moment, when their powers collided, the weapons bounced off, and the waves turned into incomparably tyrannical water pillars. Chao Chiu, who was cheering in the front, was knocked down by a water column and sent flying dozens of meters away. Wow, he's so strong. Wang Zetian's eyes were full of fighting spirit, but no one knew who it was. When he fought with Han Fei before, he still felt that Han Fei was a cunning and sneaky type. However, at this moment, he had already regarded Han Fei as an extremely powerful opponent. At least, he hadn't seen many people who could compete with Tang Gu in terms of strength. Mu Ling knew Tang Gu very well. At this moment, she watched Han Fei's figure moving in the water. That chaotic battle and dodging technique, that strange and astonishing range of his body, that ability to dodge by a hair's breadth, all of it shocked her. Both Mu Ling and Xia Shaochan seemed to be slightly surprised. These two people seemed to be a bit similar in terms of body movement. Xia Shaochan noticed this because Han Fei had just secretly told her about it. But Mu Ling noticed this completely because she knew Tang Gu well. On the contrary, in the six-gate formation and the spirit forbidden net, the five people widened their eyes in shock. Gulp, someone gritted his teeth. This person tied with Tang Ji's dragon soul overlord body? The little girl was dumbfounded. How is it possible? In the battle, Tang Gu felt that something was wrong. Han Fei's body movement was even more flexible than his. That weird and inhuman dodging posture, that body that was still absorbing spiritual energy from the outside world in the battle, always gave him a very familiar feeling. At this moment, Han Fei stuck close to the halberd, his body almost parallel to the ground, seemed to narrowly avoid Tang Ji's attack, and circled to Tang Ji's back. The embroidery needle stabbed back. Without looking back, Tang Gu turned the halberd from his right hand to his left hand, blocked it backhandedly, and at the same time, hit back with his right elbow. Once again, the two of them were knocked back. However, after Han Fei used the majestic mystic spell, he didn't use his full strength. According to his calculation, Tang Ji's dragon soul overlord body directly pushed his strength more than twice, less than 3 times. Tang Gu frowned slightly. You seem to be holding back. Han Fei grinned. Why do you think so? Tang Ji's face was still cold. Up to now, you haven't used the power of your spiritual beast, nor have you attached a contractual spiritual beast to your body. Han Fei asked, didn't you use it too? Tang Gu shook his head. I used the power of my spiritual beast, and you seem to have used some kind of secret method. If we continue to fight, my strength will disappear in a moment, and you. Secret methods can't be endless. The energy in your body seems to be consumed violently. I don't think you can hold on for long. Han Fei smiled and suddenly said in a one-way voice transmission, not bad. It seems that you haven't stayed in the 1,000-star city for nothing in the past 2 years. Both your strength and eyesight have improved a lot. What? I've used the incomplete monograph on 108 ways of body polishing for so long. Don't you feel it? Han Fei? Tang Ji's eyes widened and the water around him surged. His eyes were full of disbelief. Han Fei hurriedly said to him, don't get excited. Don't expose yourself. I'm now disguised as Fan Datong, and I'm playing a heinous bad guy. Let the people of your sect go out first. Tang Gu thought of something. Although he was extremely excited, he still suppressed this mood. He had wanted to find an opportunity to go to the Heavenly Water Village more than once. However, since he entered the 1,000-star city, He had been in various trials. This time he came to the level 3 fishery. He planned to find a dragon boat and go to the heavenly water village after leaving the steps into the sea. However, he didn't expect to meet Han Fei here, on the 198th floor of the steps into the sea. Besides, after the battle just now, he found that Han Fei's strength was so terrifying. Even with the Dragon Soul Overlord body, he couldn't defeat Han Fei. Han Fei suddenly smiled and said, "Hey, you're strong, but if you keep fighting like this, you'll only have a 50% chance of winning. I'll let your people go, but they have to leave the steps into the sea." Tang Ge pretended to be silent for a few seconds. "Okay," Han Fei said. "Master Hexagon, come back." The six-gate formation disappeared. Chao Qiu was surprised. "Fan Datong, you really let them go?" Before Han Fei spoke, Mu Ling next to Chao Qiu put a hand on his head. "Otherwise, do you want to kill your fellow disciples?" Chao Qiu snorted, put away the spirit-gathering network and muttered, "I'm not familiar with them." As soon as the 5 people came out, as soon as their strength recovered, they put on a fighting posture, fused with their spiritual beasts, and attached with their contractual spiritual beasts. This time, they didn't dare to hold back at all. However, Tang Ge waved his halberd. "Get out." "Tang Ge. Boss Tang, this man is too much. How can we let him go?" Tang Ge glanced at them and the 5 people were immediately discouraged. They glared at Han Fei hatefully, and then their bodies gradually faded away. Han Fei looked at Chao Qiu. "You go to the next floor first." Wang Zetian frowned. "Do you still want to fight?" Han Fei twitched the corner of his mouth and said, "Why, do you still want to watch?" Wang Zetian snorted, and his body faded away and disappeared. Chao Qiu looked around. "Still fighting? Isn't it all over?" Tang Ge glanced at Chao Qiu coldly. "Go down." Chao Qiu shrank his body, pouted, and looked at Han Fei. "Then finish it quickly. If you can't win, go down. We still have a lot of things to do." With that, Chao Qiu's body also began to fade. Xia Shaochan glanced at Mu Ling. "Hey, let's go." Mu Ling frowned and asked, "What are you going to do?" Tang Ge shook his head slightly. "I have some ideas about cultivation that need to be confirmed." Mu Ling said, "This person is very dangerous. He is not weak." Tang Ge shook his head lightly. "It doesn't matter." Xia Shaochan glanced at Han Fei. "This floor is almost cleaned up. But there should be more people. Be careful." Han Fei smiled faintly. "Don't worry." With that, Han Fei pulled Master Hexagon off his body and threw it to Xia Shaochan. "Let it follow you." Xia Shaochan glanced at it in disgust. "You can only hang on my shoulder, not my leg." Hexagon Starfish. After Xia Shaochan and Mu Ling left, Han Fei's face was twisting, and some energy and spiritual energy were dissipating. Seeing Han Fei's face, Tang Ge, who had been keeping a straight face, suddenly grinned and the corners of his mouth became wider and wider. The two looked at each other and gave each other a big hug. Tang Ge smiled innocently. "Brat, I never thought I would meet you here. What's going on with you now? How did you become an intermediate dangling fisher in the blink of an eye? Also, didn't Feng Zhe give you the spirit-gathering art? How did you become a soul warrior? And why did you pretend to be this Fan Datong? What an ugly name. Who gave it to you? What happened to Li Ju after I left? Tell me." Han Fei punched Tang Ge in the chest. "Little girl? As soon as we met, you couldn't stop talking. You have to let me tell you slowly." Tang Ge smiled foolishly again. Yes, no hurry, no hurry. Take your time. First update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Cell phone website. Chapter 451. Just like this, the two sat on the ground on the steps into the sea. Han Fei talked about his experience in the past 2 years. There were ups and downs, but there were also great opportunities. Tang Ji's face changed from joy to anger. For example, when he heard that Li Ju had recovered quickly, His face changed at that time. Of course, the story Han Fei told had to be half true and half false. He took it for granted. For example, the venerable who taught him the incomplete monograph on 108 ways of body polishing appeared again. Seeing that he was doing well, he also gave him the full set of the 108 spirit-absorbing war bodies. Another example was that old Jiang in the plantation was a hidden peerless master. There was no need for Han Fei to hide these things at all. Then, with old Jiang, Han Fei naturally became a student of the 4th Academy of the Blue Sea Town. In Tang Ji's opinion, the next 2 years might be the happiest period of Han Fei's life. The teachers in the school were so good, the students were so awesome, and the experience was so strict. As for strength, Han Fei tested it as a wasted spiritual heritage. In fact, this was not the case. This was actually an extremely rare growth-type spirit vein. Hearing this, Tengu was stunned. A growth spiritual heritage? This was definitely a rare super spiritual heritage. Immediately, Tengu said excitedly, "Good, good, good. Wait for me. When I go back this time, I will go to my master. With your talent, there is absolutely no problem for you to enter the Heavenly Sword sect." Han Fei interrupted directly, "Come on. I won't go. My Thug Academy is no worse than your Heavenly Sword sect." Tengu wondered, is the Thug Academy really so strong? Han Fei nodded matter-of-factly. "Of course, I'm not bragging. Last time, I killed a member of the Sun family in the 1,000-star city. Then, his father specially came to the level 2 fishery from the 1,000-star city to kill me." Tengu was furious. "Really? B***starred, the Sun family, right? I'll remember it." Han Fei was amused. "Why do you have to remember that? That guy was so strong, even stronger than a hidden fisher. But what happened? He was slapped away by our principal." Tang Ji's eyes widened. "Really? Even stronger than a hidden fisher?" That was already the realm of a law enforcement officer. A law enforcer was a high-ranking official who maintained the law and order of a region. In that case, your principal is actually a reclusive law enforcement officer? Even in the 1,000-star city, there aren't many of them. Han Fei was slightly taken aback. In this case, Old Bai was probably really a very powerful person. However, Han Fei said casually, "Don't worry. I'm doing well in the Thug Academy. Look, they aren't inferior to your Heavenly Sword sect, right? In the future, I'll go to the 1,000-star city if I have the chance. Right, let's not talk about this. How are you? What did you experience after you were taken away by Fang Zhe?" Tang Gu chuckled. "What can I do? Fang Zhe is actually a disciple of the Heavenly Sword sect who is traveling in the outside world, and he can be considered as my senior brother. After I went to the 1,000-star city, he took me to be his disciple. After that, he spent his time in secret realms and battles. I came to the level 3 fishery this time because I became an advanced dangling fisher and was released. It was said that I would not be released until I became a peak-level dangling fisher. Fortunately, my junior sister coaxed and pestered my master, so I was released in advance." Han Fei nudged Tang Gu with his shoulder and said sneakily, "Is it that girl just now? Are you in love?" Cough. "No. No," Han Fei smiled cunningly. "What are you afraid of? I think she's not bad. She's a spirit gatherer. She should be very good at arrays and can teach Chao Chiu a lesson. She should come from a rich family. It's not a loss to marry her. I have high hopes for you." Tang Gu blushed. "No, no. Ling is just my junior sister." Han Fei patted Tang Ji's shoulder with one hand. "Tsk, tsk, tsk. Ling look how intimate you are. It seems that this matter is settled. A man has to find a girlfriend." Tang Gu shrugged awkwardly. "By the way, the one in white just now," Han Fei grinned. "My little wife. It's not that I'm bragging, but I teach her a lesson every day. She's so obedient now." Tang Gu. "Then just now, you seem to be pulled by the ear. Han Fei blushed slightly. Cough, cough. You don't understand. This is called fun. When your relationship with Miss Ling goes further, you will understand. Well, do you want me to teach you some of my experience? Let me tell you. Blah blah. More than an hour later, Han Fei and Tang Ge still felt the same as when they were in the Heavenly Water Village, and they didn't feel estranged at all. This was also because of their strength. The two bragged for a long time, and Tang Ge smiled in surprise. Han Fei, you seem to have changed a lot and become more cheerful. Han Fei smiled slightly. Of course, since I know that my spiritual heritage is a growth spiritual heritage, of course I don't feel any pressure anymore. Let's stop talking about this. Are there many people from your Heavenly Sword sect on the 199th floor? Tang Ge was taken aback. Not too many. This time, there are not many people from the Heavenly Sword sect. There are some on the next floor, but victory and defeat are common in battles in the fishery. However, you'd better not kill them, or there will be many unknown consequences. Han Fei nodded lightly. I see. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Tang Ge changed the topic at this moment. So, the Sun family has actually been hunting you? Han Fei nodded. Yes. I was a little defeated before. However, after the sea grassland, it won't be so easy for them to kill me again. Tang Ge nodded slightly. Some time ago, I saw Sun Mu and the others go to the lower floor. At this moment, they should be on the 200th or 201st floor. Let's go. If they dare to hurt my brother, I will go with you to deal with them. Han Fei grabbed Tang Ge and said, Wait a minute, don't worry about me and Sun Mu. They can't do anything to me, and I know what I'm doing. Tang Ge immediately shook his head. How can I ignore them? There are at least dozens of times more people on the 200th floor than on the 198th floor. Most of the people who can continue to go down are concentrated there. No matter how strong you are now, how many people can you beat with the secret method just now? Han Fei shook his head and said, Are the disciples of the big sects in the 1,000-star city all on the same side? Don't worry, I will take action according to the situation. But you can't be exposed. Tang Ge said coldly, Do you think I will watch you fight alone and stay out of it? Han Fei smiled bitterly. I'm not alone. I still have Xia Shaochan. Besides, isn't that Wang Zitian also my teammate? Tang Ge still shook his head. Wang Zitian is not weak, but none of Sun Mu's people are weak. Wang Zitian may be able to deal with one of them one-on-one, but he will definitely lose one-on-two. As for Chao Qiuqiu, he has no combat experience. It was fine for him to invent and create some gadget, but you want him to fight with others? I think we should call it that. Han Fei bared his teeth. He had noticed this a long time ago. Although Chao Qiuqiu's equipment was luxurious, his strength was almost negligible. Han Fei pondered for a moment and asked, Can Mu Ling be absolutely trusted? Tang Ge paused for a moment and then nodded with certainty. Yes. Han Fei nodded. Okay. If you really want to join my side to fight, you must not be the current you. With that, Han Fei threw a jade slip to Tang Ge. This is the 1,000 Faces technique, a demon-level, divine-quality disguise technique, which I accidentally obtained in a secret realm. Don't take action if you can. If you have to take action in the future, learn it first. If you can absolutely trust Mu Ling, give this jade slip to her. Demon-level, divine quality? Tang Ge was shocked. A demon-level, high-quality combat skill was already very rare. It could be said that in a place like the town, it was hard to find a demon-level high-quality combat skill, let alone a divine-quality one. There were many demon-level high-quality combat skills in the 1,000-star city. However, when it came to divine quality, this was unheard of. But Tang Ge shook his head slightly and said, It's useless even if I use the disguise technique. My fighting style will be easily recognized. Han Fei thought about it and realized that it did make sense. Not everyone had so many ultra-quality combat skills like him. Oh right. Han Fei took out another jade slip. This is the 108 spirit-absorbing war bodies, an upgraded version of the incomplete monograph on 108 ways of body polishing. Take it. Tang Ji's face changed slightly and he hurriedly refused. No, absolutely not. I can't take what the Venerable gave you. I can learn the incomplete version, but if I learn the whole version, I may annoy the Venerable. At that time, he may expel you. Han Fei pushed Brother Tang's hand away. Just take it. The Venerable didn't accept me as a disciple. He didn't care much about this combat skill. In fact, this is not much different from the incomplete version. It just makes the physique combat skill a little more perfect and can absorb spiritual energy in battle. So, it's nothing special. You'll know when you learn it. Tango hesitated. But, no buts. We are brothers. How can I argue with you about this? Didn't I drink all your swallowed spirit soup back then? That's different. That's just swallowed spirit soup. Han Fei shook his head. No, it's very important. If it weren't for the swallowed spirit soup, who knows if I would have become who I am now. Second update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Cell phone website. Chapter 452. In fact, Han Fei didn't have anything more to give Tango. Perhaps because the indestructible body was too powerful, even though the 108 spirit-absorbing war bodies was a demon-level divine quality combat skill, Han Fei didn't feel its power. After all the limelight was stolen by the indestructible body. As for the Thousand Faces technique, it was just a disguise technique. From a practical point of view, it was actually more commonly used than the 108 spirit-absorbing war bodies. Although it didn't help with the improvement of strength. With this thing, a person's survivability could be improved many times. As the saying went, no one knew what would happen in the future. Even though Tang Gu looked powerful now and could intimidate his classmates with a glance, no one was invincible. However, no one was invincible, and it might come in handy in the future. Han Fei couldn't catch up with Tang Gu for too long. As Chao Qiu said, on these floors, the lower they went, the more difficult it was and the more people there were. It was actually not easy to clean them up completely, especially on the 200th floor. To be honest, Han Fei was thinking, should I expose my true identity? After all, without the nine-tailed mantis shrimp and little gold, his strength was actually reduced. At this moment, fortunately, Han Fei had the Majestic Mystic spell to support him. As Tang Gu said, the Majestic Mystic spell consumed a lot of energy. From the previous hot pot meal until now, the energy dissipated, and there was not much left. If he wanted to use it again, he would have to eat spiritual fruits or have a big meal. At this moment, Han Fei said, "Let's go down. See you on the 200th floor. I should be able to deal with the 199th floor by myself." Tang Gu asked, "Are you going to continue robbing them?" Han Fei grinned. "Of course. I came to the steps into the sea this time to look for opportunities, not to fight with Chao Qiu against the children of the big clans. If I can rob them, it's okay, but if I can't, of course, I won't fight them stupidly. I will go directly to the 201st floor." Tang Gu nodded solemnly. "Okay. However, it is said that the difficulty of the 201st floor will soar. Some people say that it is very, very difficult. Even Chao Qiu's brother, who had experienced the steps into the sea many times, only made it to the 208th floor last time. But my master told me that it's actually not as difficult as I thought. He also said that, if it was me, I might even be able to clear the 250th floor." Han Fei's eyes flickered and he kept it in mind. "I know. Alright, don't be so wishy-washy, go down." As Tang Ji's body faded, Han Fei didn't go to the 199th floor immediately. Instead, he flashed into Forge the Universe. With Xia Xiaochan's ability, she was probably the only one who could beat others on the 199th floor. Besides, Master Hexagon Starfish's six-gate formation was still there. It was impossible for an ordinary person to hurt her. In Forge the Universe, Han Fei spent more than half an hour cooking for himself. After all, he had consumed too much energy just now. Half an hour later, when Han Fei appeared on the 199th floor, he didn't see anyone else. However, the seawater was shaking, and the source was not the same. It seemed that there was a battle going on in multiple places. Han Fei chose to go to the place closest to him. When he arrived, he found that Wang Zetian was fighting 3 disciples of the major sects alone. However, this time the disciples of the major sects didn't seem to be from the Heavenly Sword sect, because their uniforms were different. And among these people, some used hammers, and some used armor boxes. At this moment, Wang Zetian didn't seem to be at a disadvantage. However, this battle seemed to have lasted for a long time. Both sides seemed to have consumed a lot of spiritual energy, and no one gained the upper hand. Seeing that Han Fei had arrived, Wang Zetian breathed a sigh of relief. "Help me!" When the 3 people on the opposite side saw that Wang Zetian and Han Fei knew each other, their faces changed slightly. Retreat. However, neither Wang Zetian nor Han Fei would give them a chance to retreat. Wang Zetian brandished his sword, and the sword chi swirled around him. Han Fei took the opportunity to attack. The embroidery needle slashed the seawater backward, and spiritual energy burst out. The 3 of them were in a stalemate. At this moment, Han Fei, who was even more powerful than Wang Zetian, joined the battle. In less than 2 minutes, he was knocked to the ground by Han Fei. Han Fei held the whetstone in his left hand and the embroidery needle in his right hand, shouting, "I'm here to rob you, not to kill you. Hand over your sea-swallowing seashells." Hearing Han Fei's words, Wang Zetian couldn't help but glance to the side, thinking to himself, "This man is so shameless. Why does he look like he's proud of himself for robbing others? Wang Zetian, and this guy in black, we'll remember you." Han Fei smiled faintly. "Please remember me. I really hope to rob you again." Wang Zetian put away his sword and looked at Han Fei. Who won? What Wang Zetian cared about was the battle between Han Fei and Tengu. Of course, he didn't know that Han Fei and Tengu were brothers and they were just catching up. So, this guy was still full of expectations. Han Fei smiled slightly. "I didn't lose or win. That Tengu is really strong." "Huh? You actually tied with Tengu?" Han Fei shrugged. "You don't believe me?" "Humph." Wang Zetian snorted. "I'm going to find Chao Chiuchiu." With that, Wang Zetian slipped away. To tell the truth, it was not that he didn't believe it, but he was already shocked. Those who hadn't fought with Tengu didn't know how terrifying that guy was. Once he had a good time, he could even go berserk. At his peak, he couldn't even catch a single halberd strike from him. His strength could be imagined. But at this moment, this temporary comrade actually tied with Tengu? What did this mean? This guy hid his strength too well. It was definitely more than what he had shown now. Wang Zetian left, and Han Fei naturally wouldn't stay either. He immediately swam to the next battlefield. However, this time, Han Fei still didn't see Xia Shaochan. This seemed to be a battle between the disciples of 2 major sections. In total, there were a total of 9 people fighting. One side had 5 people, and the other side had 4 people. Since everyone's strength was about the same, the side with 5 people obviously had an advantage. And on the side of 4 people, 3 people had been injured and were just struggling at this moment. When Han Fei arrived, the 4 people immediately shouted, "Brother, help us fight. If we win, their sea-swallowing seashells will belong to you." And on the side of the 5 people, someone said, "Brother, don't make a mistake." Han Fei smiled faintly. "Make a mistake? Haha. Hey, let me help you." As soon as Han Fei took action, he slashed down with a brick. The blood-drinking knife emitted a cold knife light, and the first slash injured a person and broke the person's high-quality spiritual weapon. The 5 people's faces changed drastically. "Asshole, which sect are you from?" Han Fei said, I am from the chief disciple of the sect you've never thought of. My name is Fan Datong, and this is the first time I've come out. Please enlighten me. Han Fei didn't care about bragging at all. If you don't have a sect, I'll make up one. If you don't have an identity, I'll make it up again. Anyway, when you know who I am, you won't be able to find me. Chief disciple? You want to be the chief disciple? Some hunters disdained him and rushed forward stealthily. As a result, he was knocked to the ground by Han Fei's rod in the blink of an eye. You're shameless. You used a knife. Han Fei was speechless. Are you stupid? I use both knives and sticks, but do I need to tell you? Are you out of your mind? Seeing that Han Fei had injured one and killed one, the 4 people who were at a disadvantage immediately fought back. After half an hour, the 5 people were all knocked to the ground, and they reluctantly handed over their sea-swallowing seashells. Because 3 of these 4 people were seriously injured, and seeing that Han Fei was extremely strong, they didn't break their promise to Han Fei and really gave all 5 sea-swallowing seashells to Han Fei. This scene stunned Han Fei. Damn, this is the first time in the level 3 fishery, isn't it? He thought these people wouldn't give them to him. At that time, he could teach these 4 people a lesson. But they gave them to him. What could he do? Brother, we will never break our promise to you. Han Fei silently took the sea-swallowing seashells, suddenly raised his head, and looked at these people. Is this the first time you've come to the level 3 fishery? They paused for a moment and then nodded. Yes, it's the first time I left the sect and I came directly to the steps into the sea. Didn't you? Han Fei. Suddenly, Han Fei said, Then do you want me to help you understand the rules of the level 3 fishery? A girl asked curiously, What are the rules of the level 3 fishery? Han Fei said lightly, Don't trust strangers. So, hand over your sea-swallowing seashells, okay? Everyone. After a while, the 4 people lay on the ground. The girl shouted in grief and indignation, You're shameless! Han Fei tilted his head. How can I be shameless? Learn from your mistakes. I'm teaching you. Don't kill me. I am the black ghost of the black and white ghosts, and my name is Fan Datong. You will thank me in the future. Because others won't spare your lives. Chapter 453. Less than an hour after entering the 199th floor, Han Fei got 12 sea-swallowing seashells. He had to admit that the people from the big sects were really of different levels. Since the 197th floor, the sea-swallowing seashells that Han Fei got in the worst condition could be sacrificed twice on the 199th floor. Among the 12 sea-swallowing seashells that he got just now, Han Fei actually found 3 soul crystals. Han Fei immediately absorbed them, and after a few minutes, all 3 soul crystals disappeared. When Han Fei opened his eyes, the look in his eyes was very strange. He remembered the 8th, 9th, and 10th pieces of the God-scaring painting. However, this time, Han Fei found that his perception range didn't increase at all. Suddenly, Han Fei felt that he seemed to have discovered a big secret. He felt that if he continued to absorb soul crystals, he might be different from others. Others relied on soul crystals to improve their perception range, but he was different. He cultivated with the God-scaring painting. Unfortunately, Han Fei had no soul crystals in his hands, so he couldn't confirm his conjecture, so he could only continue to rob. After half an hour, Han Fei found another battlefield. This time, it was not people fighting against people, but people fighting against the summoned sea creatures. After robbing, Han Fei didn't find any soul crystals, so he continued to rush to the next battlefield. After sweeping through 5 or 6 people in a row, Han Fei didn't see Xia Xiaochan or Tango. However, he managed to snatch another soul crystal. This time, Han Fei sat on the ground and immediately absorbed the soul crystal. However, the problem this time didn't become simple. In his mind, the God-scaring painting was still complicated, full of lines, and beautiful. However, when Han Fei tried to remember the 11th small picture, the sense of clarity only existed for a short while. When the soul crystals were consumed, he had no impression of the 11th small picture at all, and his mind was in a blur. I didn't remember the picture, but why hasn't my perception range increased at all? Han Fei frowned. It shouldn't be like this. As Chao Qiu said, after reaching 500 meters, he needed 10 times the number of soul crystals to expand his perception range by another 50 meters. Even if that's true, I should be able to expand by 5 meters after using a soul crystal, right? But no, not even 0.01 meters. On the contrary, Han Fei seemed to have hit a bottleneck. Hiss. Could it be that soul energy is also divided into different realms? Without the soul crystals, Han Fei couldn't speculate. He was about to continue robbing when he saw Xia Shaochan swimming over with Chao Qiu. Han Fei. Han Fei looked at Chao Qiu in shock and asked in surprise, "What? What's wrong?" Xia Shaochan snorted. "What can I do? This guy was completely useless. I couldn't beat them at the front, and I couldn't handle them alone, so I ran away with him." Han Fei couldn't help but smile. "I can't beat them. Are there many people ahead?" Xia Shaochan nodded. 12. There are suddenly a lot more people on this floor. Those 12 people seem to have come from the same place. I can't beat him alone. This guy is like a turtle shell, he won't budge. Chao Qiu complained, "I can't beat them either. I told you to run." Xia Shaochan glared at Chao Qiu angrily. "Run, run, run. All you know is to run. Since I first met you, you have been running away. You haven't had a serious fight." Chao Qiu stretched his neck and said, "I can't beat them, and they can't break my defense. I have to save my ultimate skill for the 200th floor. If I use it now, I won't have any more ultimate skills." Han Fei chuckled. "Do you still have any ultimate skills?" Chao Qiu nodded. "Of course. Although I am a little weaker than you in battle, you don't have to rely on brute force to beat people." Han Fei was speechless. "Are you going to blow up the 200th floor?" Chao Qiu rolled his eyes. "How is that possible? How can I do that kind of uncreative thing? I do want to blow it up, but how can I blow up such a big place?" Han Fei's face darkened. "Fine, I don't care what ultimate skills you have, but there are 12 people. It seems that I still have to use the majestic mystic spell." Han Fei felt that he'd better keep his energy. On the bottom of the sea, there might not be so many opportunities to cook. Han Fei looked at Xia Shaochan. "Do you still want more spiritual fruits?" Xia Shaochan shook her head. "No, I have enough." Chao Qiu said excitedly, "Are we going back now?" Han Fei glanced at Chao Qiu contemptuously. "Go back? There are 12 people on the other side, and they are not ordinary. Which one of them is not stronger than an ordinary peak-level dangling fisher? Why do you want us to go alone?" Chao Qiu's mouth trembled. "Of course. You can even tie with Tango. What's the big deal about fighting 12 people? You know, guys at my brother's level and Tang Ji's level have all fought against 100 people alone." "No, wait a minute," Han Fei swallowed. "What did you say?" Xia Shaochan also didn't believe it. How is it possible to fight 100 people alone? No matter how strong he is, can he challenge 100 strong people of the same level? Chao Qiu raised his head and said, "Not the same level, but a higher level." "Impossible." Han Fei and Xia Shaochan were stunned. "A higher level challenge and 100 people alone? Are you King kidding me?" Chao Qiu put his hands behind his back. "Why is it impossible? They have done it. It was to throw them into a secret realm with a circumference of at most 1,000 miles, and have 100 people surround and hunt one person. So far, 101 people have completed it in the past 100 years. The 100th is my brother, and the 101st is Tango. What do you think?" Han Fei and Xia Shaochan breathed a sigh of relief at the same time. Xia Shaochan rolled her eyes. "Next time you speak, make it clear to me. I thought it was a one-on-one fight. I was scared to death. Han Fei shook his head slightly. It's not that simple. Don't forget, it's 100 people hunting one person. Maybe the people hunting will be separated, but they will definitely be in groups of 3 or 5, or even more. Chao Chiu nodded. Yes, but it's still very powerful. I think you can do it too, because there are 2 of you. Han Fei, Xia Shaochan. Xia Shaochan couldn't help but show a trace of hope and looked at Han Fei. Why don't we have a try? Han Fei rolled his eyes. Try what? Let me tell you a truth today. If you can fight one-on-one, don't fight as a group. If you can fight as a group, don't fight one-on-one. Xia Shaochan asked, but can't Brother Tang and the others do it? Han Fei was speechless. Just because they can do it doesn't mean they have to do it. It's a trial. Of course they can do it. We're not in a trial now. If we're going to be beaten to death, Old Bai won't show up as soon as a rock is crushed. Han Fei kicked Chao Chiu's butt. Go be the bait. Lure a few people over first. Han Fei smiled. Do you think I'll trick you? After Han Fei explained the strategy, Chao Chiu also understood it. However, he was still a little scared. In the end, he was kicked away by Han Fei. In fact, Chao Chiu didn't need to be the bait at all. Xia Shaochan and Chao Chiu were chased by the other party. It was just that Xia Shaochan ran fast and got rid of the other party. Therefore, as soon as Chao Chiu showed up, those people rushed over. Seeing this, Chao Chiu hurriedly ran away, and while running, he said, Hey, it's me. I'm Chao Chiu. Why are you chasing me? We are chasing you. Chao Chiu ran away. I didn't offend you. Why are you chasing me? Someone said angrily, You are an accomplice. Just now, that girl robbed 2 of our teams. Chao Chiu, don't you have any explanation? Chao Chiu yelled, This is a trial. You are not strong enough, so you were robbed. What does it have to do with me? That's why we're going to kidnap you as well, lest you continue to be muddle-headed and hang out with strange people every day. As Chao Chiu ran, he saw Xia Shaochan sitting cross-legged on the ground, and he shouted, Xie Xiaoan, help! Xia Shaochan opened her eyes, looked back, pretended to panic, and immediately ran hundreds of meters away. However, after running hundreds of meters, she turned back and rushed towards Chao Chiu. Behind her, those who were chasing Chao Chiu were overjoyed, and someone sighed. I didn't expect that woman to be so kind. For this reason, I won't kill her. At this moment, in the distant sea, a vague figure seemed to be swimming over. However, seeing so many people here, he stopped. Of course, these 12 people didn't panic at all. Whether that person was just passing by or not, there were only 3 of them anyway. As for combat power, there were only 2 of them. Chao Chiu didn't count. Xia Shaochan picked up Chao Chiu and ran not far away. When these 12 people ran to the place where Xia Shaochan was just now, they saw 6 beams of light suddenly rising from the ground. These people's reaction was very fast. Some accelerated instantly, and some left the team, so that the 6-gate formation of Master Hexagon only trapped 5 people. Damn, it's a trap. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. At the moment when these people fell into the trap, Xia Shaochan threw Chao Chiu into the 6-gate formation like throwing a ball. Chao Chiu attached himself to the cloud dolphin, asked the poisonous bubble fish to spit bubbles, and then threw a spirit-forbidden net directly into the 6-gate formation. On the other side, at the moment when the 6-gate formation rose, Han Fei had already sped up and rushed over. Xia Shaochan smiled slyly. Humph, a bunch of idiots, take this. Chapter 454. Han Fei was not far away from here. When he arrived, Xia Shaochan had already rushed up to him. Under normal circumstances, Xia Shaochan wouldn't be able to beat them. After all, she couldn't use any of her hunter's abilities. It was a bit difficult for her to pretend to be a soul warrior. However, with the majestic mystic spell, even if Xia Shaochan waved an ordinary bamboo stick, she wouldn't necessarily be weaker than any of these people in front of her. Besides, although Xia Xiaochan couldn't use any of the hunter's abilities, her speed and reaction ability were not comparable to that of ordinary soul warriors. Even in the 1,000-star city, this heaven-level combat skill, the roaming art, was extremely rare. In the level 3 fishery, there were only 1 or 2 heaven-level combat skills in 100 dragon boat. As soon as Han Fei arrived, a real soul warrior, enhanced by the secret method of the majestic mystic spell, rushed into the battlefield, which was a horrible scene. However, what surprised Han Fei was that among these 7 people, 3 of them used some kind of secret method on the spot, and their combat power soared instantly. At the same time, they fused with their spiritual beasts and attached with their contractual spiritual beasts, and their strength was increased again. In this way, under the joint efforts of the 3 people, they actually blocked Han Fei's blow. This scene made Han Fei's heart skip a beat. How the F***ck did they block it? What surprised Han Fei was that his blow with 5 times his combat power shouldn't have been able to withstand a single blow. However, these disciples of the major sects in the 1,000-star city were able to resist it. Then, at the 200th floor, how strong would those guys be? Of course, what was even more shocking than Han Fei was that the 3 disciples of the major sects could only block 1 blow with their combined strength. But the second blow came immediately. The 3 of them wanted to block it again, but the power of this blow was even stronger than before. Bam! The 3 of them were directly smashed to the ground, bleeding, their internal organs damaged, and they all vomited a mouthful of blood. Of the other 4 people, 2 were entangled by Xia Xiaochan. At this moment, they were being suppressed and had no power to fight back at all. Seeing this scene, the other 2 actually took out a talisman. The first lifeless gate. In front of the 2 of them, a void gate suddenly fell from the sky and landed abruptly, blocking Han Fei's way. Chao Qiu immediately said via voice transmission, "This is the special skill of the Death Door sect of the 1,000-star city. Its defense is so strong that even my brother and Tang Gu can't break it." Han Fei's heart skipped a beat, and he stabbed the embroidery needle at the void gate that suddenly appeared. Dong! The sound was like muffled thunder, reverberating in all directions. Several cracks appeared on the void gate after Han Fei smashed it with his rod. However, as Chao Qiu said, its defense power was terrifying. Among the 2, one of the spirit gatherers immediately cast a healing technique and injected spiritual energy into his companion's body. However, while the 2 of them were stalling for time with the death door, Han Fei suddenly took out his fishing rod. Everyone. The 2 people on the opposite side were still puzzled. Why did he take out his fishing rod at this moment? However, as Han Fei waved the hook, it appeared on the other side of the death door in the blink of an eye. Before the 2 of them could react at all, the 1,000 twining silk was instantly activated, wrapping the 2 of them like dumplings. Wow! How is this possible? 1,000-mile fishing technique. Chao Qiu also exclaimed in surprise, "Wow! How did you do it?" Even Xia Xiaochan's eyes narrowed. She had seen Wenren Yu and Xiao Zhan use this technique before. With a wave of his hand, the fishing hook broke through the air and flew 1,000 miles away. Now, Han Fei also knew how to do it? These 12 people only felt very aggrieved. The most aggrieved were the 5 guys who were directly trapped by the 6-gate formation. If they were not trapped, they could more or less block a few attacks and buy some time. At this moment, Han Fei smiled and said, "I want money, not life. Leave your sea-swallowing seashells and I'll let you go." "Humph! Do you know what you are doing? You are issuing a challenge to our Death Door sect." Han Fei grinned and walked up to the person who spoke. Han Fei squatted down, patted his face gently, and said, "I am robbing you. I don't care if you are from the Death Door or the Life Door. Even if your house is full of doors, I will still rob you." These disciples of the major sects had never been insulted like this. How could they bear it when their faces had been slapped so hard by Han Fei? This person was about to jump up when he saw a square brick slapping down on him, and he was stunned. Han Fei took out his sea-swallowing seashell casually, pulled at his clothes and said helplessly, "Why don't you wear any ornaments on your body? Don't you even have an amulet?" Everyone. The man was indignant. "Why are you still robbing me?" Han Fei scoffed. "Give them to me. If you don't give them to me, I will." As he spoke, 2 little girls immediately covered their chests. Han Fei said with a black face, "Xia Shaochan, you robbed the women's." After a while, these 12 people were expelled by Han Fei in batches, and their bodies gradually faded. Chao Qiu was excited watching from the side. So strong. With such a big shot, it wouldn't be a problem to pass the 199th floor and even the 200th floor. Before leaving, a guy looked at Chao Qiu and said, "Chao Qiu, when we go back this time, I will definitely get even with you." Chao Qiu disdainfully said, "If you have the ability, go find Chao Tian. It has nothing to do with me." Han Fei really envied Chao Qiu's attitude. He was crazy about cheating his brother. If there was anything, he would just blame it on his brother. He really didn't know how Chao Qiu survived to this age. And he had actually become an advanced dangling fisher. On this side, Han Fei had just collected the sea-swallowing seashells of these 12 people and sent them out. He hadn't had time to check their sea-swallowing seashells yet. The water rippled and another group of people came. Han Fei was stunned. "Why are there so many people? There are a lot of people on this floor. I'm afraid there are nearly 30 people who have been expelled by us." The hexagon starfish suddenly complained, "Starfish, it's so difficult. The 6-gate formation consumes a lot of spiritual energy. And there are people coming from 3 directions. 3 directions? Han Fei turned his head and saw that there were already figures appearing in the sea. There seemed to be only 1 person in one direction, 2 people in another direction, and 7 or 8 people in another direction. Chao Qiu immediately shouted, "Run, we are going to be surrounded." Xia Shaochan waved the stick in her hand. Fortunately, there are only a dozen people. Han Fei wondered, "Is that 2 swords? 2 swords?" Chao Qiu immediately looked at the lone figure, and after looking at it for a while, he said in surprise, Yes, that is 2 swords. I can still fight." Han Fei despised him. "Damn it. You can't fight." Chao Qiu nodded. "You can fight." On this side, after feeling the fierce battle here just now, 2 swords knew that the people who could cause such violent fluctuations here were either disciples of some major sect who had a big battle, Tanggu or Han Fei. And according to his judgment, there was no one fighting as soon as they came in except Han Fei. Sure enough, as he expected, he saw Han Fei, Xia Shaochan, and Chao Qiu standing in the water from a distance. Of course, he also noticed the arrival of other people. However, he didn't care. Although they only had 3 people on their side, they weren't weak. However, when 2 swords swam closer, he saw that it was Tanggu and Mu Ling on the other side, and he suddenly felt as if he had swallowed a sea urchin. It was so uncomfortable. Han Fei was also a little surprised. Tanggu is here. There were so many people here, so Han Fei and Tanggu couldn't show anything. However, the expressions of Xia Shaochan and Mu Ling became strange. Xia Shaochan said to him via voice transmission, "Is this guy really your brother? He fought 100 people alone." Han Fei responded, "Of course." Mu Ling also asked at the moment, "Is that person really your brother? Is he really as strong as you say?" Tanggu nodded. "Of course, he will only be stronger than I imagined. Don't forget, he is hiding his identity now, so he can't use his spiritual beasts and contractual spiritual beasts." On the other side, there were a total of 8 people. However, these 8 people were not wearing the uniforms of the Death Door sect, nor the uniforms of the Heavenly Sword sect, but seemed to be from another sect. Chao Qiu said, "They are from the Sea Cloud Tower." Han Fei was speechless. "Wait. How many sects are there in the 1,000-star city?" Why are they coming wave after wave? Is there no end to it? Chao Chiu said, There are more. There are 7 major sections. This Sea Cloud Tower is a little weaker than the Heavenly Sword sect and the Death Door sect, but it is still very powerful.